Today. I know you're enjoying the show so far, but important to take time out for a little reminder about Free Speech TV and how we depend on you. And you are so important. And I'm so proud to be part of this great Free Speech TV network because, look, this has been a big cause of mine for a long time. And that is how tough it is to find good, progressive opinion and commentary in this country anymore because the media is so lopsided to the right. I mean, if you look at talk radio, for example, there are about 2,000 news talk stations in the country. Maybe only 50 or 60 of them are progressive talk radio stations, and that's probably being, like generous. And on television, what do you got? You got Fox News far to the right. You got the corporate media, CBS and NBC and ABC. Even MSNBC is not progressive 24/7, as we know. There's only one 24/7 progressive television network you can count on, and that is Free Speech TV. But we're only there because of you, and we wouldn't be there without your help. And this is a time of the year that we turn to you again and ask for your help to keep free speech on the air and to keep your favorite progressives out there with you every single day. We ask you to be as generous as you can in making a pledge to Free Speech TV. And here's something you ought to consider. If you can give us $120, make that kind of a pledge to Free Speech TV, that's $10 a month, you'll get a Bill Press Show mug and a pound of coffee from Peregrine Coffee, our favorite coffee shop in the world. It's right downstairs in our building. If you can pledge $240 or $20 a month from Cowgirl Creamery in California, take it from me, the best cheese in the world, better than France or Switzerland. Cowgirl Creamery, it's great. For $360 or $30 a month for that kind of a pledge, we'll send you another treat from Cowgirl Creamery, plus a Bill Press Show mug. And if there's any way you can pledge $1,000, a very special treat for you, you make your way to Washington, and I will take you and a friend out to dinner and then invite you into the studio here to watch the show the next morning. That would be a lot of fun. Hope you can take advantage of it. But however you can help, if it's $120, $240, or $360, or the big one for $1,000, we ask you just to dig in, be as generous as you can. It's so important to keep our progressive voices on the air, to keep Free Speech TV on the air. And there's one independent television channel that has no corporate money, no government money. All of our money comes from our viewers. We work only for you. We're happy to do so, but we also depend on your help. Please be as generous as you can. Thank you.
In 1920s America, the Great Depression effectively erased consumer demand. Struggling manufacturers needed new ways to get people buying again. Innovative production processes like stamping and use of molds allowed them to use new materials for their designs. Products using vinyl, chrome, aluminium and plywood began appearing. American industrial designers began introducing streamlined, efficient shapes that shouted progress. Bel Geddes pioneered what we now refer to as utilitarian art. Things that had little reason to look sleek, now all of a sudden did. At the 1939 World Fair, featuring Bell Geddes' immensely popular Futurama exhibit, a new era of American industrial design proudly claimed to be building the world of tomorrow. Americans found great positivity in these futuristic forms. Yay. Things were looking up. American industrial designers realised that by making objects look great, people simply wanted them more. From cars to kitchen appliances, the most influential society on earth was spending money again. Mass consumption had arrived. Advertisers finally had lots to talk about. Personal taste could be expressed through the things you bought. Style became equally as important as function. Chair designers like Eames and Saarinen didn't just design seating, they created desirable lifestyles. People behind the product suddenly were stars. Everyone wanted to know who they were. Raymond Loewy was one of the shining lights of American industrial design. His face ended up on every coffee table in the nation. Toothpaste packaging promised whiter teeth. Washing powder packaging promised whiter whites. Who knew such simple household objects would shape the tastes and ambitions of an entire society? American industrial design improved America, functionally, culturally and intellectually, and exported it around the globe.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
So this is my computer.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Good morning. Happy Monday, March 10. It is The Bill Press Show, and as you can tell, I am clearly not Bill Press. Good morning, everybody. My name is Peter Ogburn. In for Bill today. Bill's out for a couple of days, so you've got me, but he will be back later on this week. We are streaming video live. You want the link to watch the show live? Go to @BP Show on Twitter, @BP Show. Got the link right there for you. Of course, you can always listen to the show on your favorite progressive talk radio station or on iHeartRadio app or on the TuneIn app. Just find the Progressive Voices channel on the TuneIn app. You can find us right there. Check it out. We have a heavy online presence on Facebook at Bill Press Show. Just go to facebook.com/Bill Press Show. And like I mentioned, on Twitter, where we're tweeting @BP Show. I'm also going to be tweeting throughout the show from my personal account @Peter Ogburn. So I'm going to try and sort of keep up with as much as I can today on this Monday, March 10. It is, without a doubt, one of the worst days of the year for those of us who get up early.
Yes, it is.
Oh, man. I got to tell you. So say hello to the team, everybody. It's Elisa Murphy running the board. Elisa.
Good morning.
Good morning, madam. Screening your calls. If you call 866-55-PRESS, you will talk to Alicia Cruz there, standing by to take your calls. And if you're watching us on the video stream, you are doing so because of the good work of Mr. Cyprian Bolding, keeping us online on the video stream. So make sure you support him by checking that out. You know, like, I understand everybody gets excited because, like, oh, we get more daylight now. You know, oh, it's wonderful. The days are longer.
Yep.
BS, man. This morning was just hateful. We get up early, and that's fine. We like getting up early. We like what we do. We wake up early. But, I mean, when you wake up as early as we do, every single minute of sleep matters.
Yes.
And we lost out on an hour.
And it doesn't matter. I actually overcompensated, went to bed earlier, but it really doesn't phase it at all. It's still a problem.
No, there is no remedying the problem. I mean, you're going to feel like garbage. But The other problem for me is, like, I couldn't go to bed.
Oh,
Like,
yeah,
I was up until, like, midnight last night.
It was so nice out. Finally,
It
some
was
sun.
nice out this weekend here in the nation's capital. We saw the sun. I didn't have to bundle up in 9 different layers. It was decent weather.
I know.
But, I mean, I didn't go to bed early to compensate. That's my problem. I was up late last night watching one of the greatest shows to have come along in a long time. True Detective.
See, I haven't picked up on that yet, but I do hear it's awesome. I need to do that.
If you want to mainline the secret truth of the universe, you got to be watching True Detective. This finale was last night. It was very satisfactory. I'm glad that they closed it out the way that they did. No spoilers yet. But I will say this. You can watch it on HBO Go, which is like the app where you could watch all the HBO shows. You can normally stream these shows on HBO through your HBO Go app, but last night they had a major problem, and HBO Go shut it down.
No
for
way.
people trying to stream the show. They could not stream the show. A total failure on the part of HBO. It was a nightmare for people. A total nightmare. But you know what I did? I watched it sitting on my sofa, watched it on the TV like a grown human man.
Oh, that's nice.
I mean, I don't have to watch my TV, on an iPad on a train somewhere.
Stretch your legs out a bit.
I watched it how it was meant to be watched on a television with a beer in my hand. That's how you watch TV. Anyway, we're going to be talking about that a little bit later on in the third hour of the program, where there probably will be some spoilers. We're going to be talking to the Mother Jones critic, Asawin Suebsaeng. He's going to be in studio with us. Later on in the program, Travis Waldron from Think Progress is going to be joining us as well. College hoops, a big deal. So, along with professional hoops, plus a very interesting story about Richard Mendenhall, who is retiring at the age of 26. We're going to talk to Travis about that. Huffington Post's Sabrina Siddiqui is going to be in studio with us in the next hour, and Katie Glueck from Politico. And later on, we're going to be having our Monday hit with the National Journal Hotline. So, it was a weird weekend because of the time change. That always goofs with us a little bit. But Friday, I went to CPAC.
No way.
CPAC was the big gathering here outside Washington, D.C. It really has become more of a Tea Party, conservative base gathering than anything else. I don't think that it really speaks to the majority of where the party wants to go, the Republican Party wants to go. But hey, I know people, so I got invited to go to CPAC. So I went. Couple of observations just on the surface of CPAC. First of all, not a lot of ladies there. Not a lot of ladies there. I don't know if you know this, but I guess ladies aren't real happy with a lot of the things that some of the speakers at CPAC have to say. It was a total sausage party. I mean, everywhere I went, it was like probably 80% dude.
Wow.
It was fascinating. But, it really got me thinking, because you look at the lineup of CPAC, right? And you had guys like Chris Christie. You had guys like Marco Rubio. You had Rand Paul. You had Ted Cruz. And like it or not, Ted Cruz might be the exception, but like it or not, those are all real candidates for people who are running for the president of the United States, right? Like, they are almost certainly going to run, and they will be taken, like I said, maybe not Ted Cruz, but they will be taken seriously. They will be taken seriously. You can't deny that Rand Paul, Chris Christie, and Marco Rubio will be taken as serious candidates. So the fact that they spoke there gives CPAC a little bit of legitimacy. So does that mean that this is a legitimate group? Meh. When you have them speaking, and then you also have other people speaking, like Rick Santorum, Ralph Reed, Newt Gingrich, Sarah Palin, Donald Trump, who spoke. All of them spoke. I was going to run through some audio from some of the speakers, right? These people were elbow to elbow with the front runners for the Republican nomination for president. Rick Santorum, I thought this was fascinating because he gives some love to Pope Francis, who's out there talking, who's like, by all accounts, a fairly progressive pope. Listen to what Rick Santorum has to say.
He's going out there and not talking about what the Christian faith is against. He's going out there and talking about what we're for.
Right. In other words, he's not doing exactly what I've been doing for the past several years. He's not doing the exact same thing that I've done to try and make a political career for myself. No. Now it's okay. Like now it's something to be applauded, right? Newt Gingrich spoke. And of all things, he's telling Republicans how to win elections.
We must stop being the opposition movement, and we must become the alternative government movement that will help make the life of every American better, so that they understand what we would do that would be right, not just what the left is doing that is wrong.
Cool story, bro. Tell me some more about how to win elections. You know, since you got your ass handed to you last time you ran for president. Yeah. You won the GOP primary in South Carolina. Congrats. Now you get to tell Republicans how to win elections? Get out of here. The big speaker?
Drum roll, please.
Sarah Palin. Now, last year she spoke, and she brought the house down. She had her big speech. She works with props. We know she works with props. Last year she took out the big gulp. So the big guesses. What's she going to bring out? What prop is she going to use this time around? Well, we found out Saturday when she spoke. She took out a copy of her book, Green Eggs and Ham, the Dr. Seuss book, Green Eggs and Ham. She held it up and, of course, used that as a joke.
I do not like this, Uncle Sam. I do not like his healthcare scam. I do not like...
Boy, that's something, isn't it? That is hard work listening to that, I got to tell you.
Another man in CPAC.
I mean, so they do their big straw poll, right? This is where conservatives in America, this is who they're looking at. This is who they like. This is who they think should be running for president of the United States. Here's how the poll came out.
For the second year in a row, Kentucky Senator Rand Paul won with 31%. Texas Senator Ted Cruz came in second with 11.
There you have it, Rand Paul, the winner of the straw poll, followed by Ted Cruz. Now, I know that a lot of people don't like Rand Paul. And I'm not saying that I'm a big Rand Paul fan, but you could say that he's he's a little wacky, I understand, but he has a real backing, right? Like people actually are watching Rand Paul. He even referenced, hey, Alicia, can you grab that clip? I know I didn't ask for it, but the clip of him talking about his filibuster. Because I think that's an important clip and an important thing to point out, that Rand Paul got a little bit of bipartisan support last year whenever he had his big filibuster on drones. He even referenced that.
When the president refused to rule out droning of an American citizen, I took a stand. I filibustered.
Yeah. And Bill even gave him a little bit of credit about what a smart thing that was to do. And I don't disagree. I think that was the right thing to do at the time. Well, here's my question for you, right? Enough of me talking. I want to find out what you think. 866-55-PRESS is our telephone number. 866-557-7377. Do you think that CPAC sort of is a representation of the conservative movement right now? I gotta say, I don't really think that it is. I think that I really do think that there are smart conservatives out there that if you were to put an undecided voter in their hands and they were to say, make this undecided voter a Republican, they would say, don't watch CPAC. Don't watch CPAC. Don't look at what's going on in CPAC. There was a panel on Saturday, and it was set up to be a debate between Republican and liberal, right? And the Republican was Ann Coulter, and the liberal was Mickey Kaus, a writer for the Daily Caller, a conservative nut job. And they put him out there as the liberal, and then they spent about an hour just bashing immigrants, slamming immigrants, and saying, there's no need for immigration reform. Democrats are the only one that want immigration reform because that's going to give them new voters. How out of touch are they? Any real conservative that gives an S about winning an election, they're all saying, please, can we get some immigration reform? We got crushed in the last election. They are fleeing from our party because you've got thought leaders in the party who are out there talking about self-deportation and taking away rights. I mean, that's the future of the Republican Party. I have to think that there are some thoughtful conservatives out there who say that this is just a joke and a mockery. 866-55-PRESS is our phone number. 866-557-7377. What's the future of CPAC? And do you think Rand Paul is the new face or the current face of the Republican Party? 866-55-PRESS. My name is Peter Ogburn. Take a quick break. We'll be right back. It's the Bill Press Show.
This is the Bill Press Show.
To talk about today. I know you're enjoying the show so far, but important to take time out for a little reminder about Free Speech TV and how we depend on you. And you are so important. And I'm so proud to be part of this great Free Speech TV network because, look, this has been a big cause of mine for a long time. And that is how tough it is to find good, progressive opinion and commentary in this country anymore because the media is so lopsided to the right. I mean, if you look at talk radio, for example, there are about 2,000 news talk stations in the country. Maybe only 50 or 60 of them are progressive talk radio stations, and that's probably being, generous. And on television, what do you got? You got Fox News far to the right. You got the corporate media, CBS and NBC and ABC. Even MSNBC is not progressive 24/7, as we know. There's only one 24/7 progressive television network you can count on, and that is Free Speech TV. But we're only there because of you, and we wouldn't be there without your help. And this is a time of the year that we turn to you again and ask for your help to keep free speech on the air and to keep your favorite progressives out there with you every single day. We ask you to be as generous as you can in making a pledge to Free Speech TV. And here's something you ought to consider. If you can give us $120, make that kind of a pledge to Free Speech TV. That's $10 a month. You'll get a Bill Press Show mug and a pound of coffee from Peregrine Coffee, our favorite coffee shop in the world. It's right downstairs in our building. If you can pledge $240 or $20 a month from Cowgirl Creamery in California, take it from me, the best cheese in the world, better than France or Switzerland. Cowgirl Creamery, it's great. For $360 or $30 a month for that kind of a pledge, we'll send you another treat from Cowgirl Creamery, plus a Bill Press Show mug. And if there's any way you can pledge $1,000, a very special treat for you. You make your way to Washington, and I will take you and a friend out to dinner and then invite you into the studio here to watch the show the next morning. That would be a lot of fun. Hope you can take advantage of it. But however you can help, if it's $120, $240, or $360, or the big one for $1,000, we ask you just to dig in, be as generous as you can. It's so important to keep our progressive voices on the air, to keep Free Speech TV on the air. And there's one independent television channel that has no corporate money, no government money. All of our money comes from our viewers. We work only for you. We're happy to do so, but we also depend on your help. Please be as generous as you can. Thank you.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
I'll say this about CPAC. I mean, they do throw a good party. Like the party that I went to, or the parties that I went to on Friday, like they had top shelf booze. They had good food. Like they do know how to party, right? I'll give them that. But the problem is, I think that I found, like, hanging out with all these Republicans, all they want to do, all they wanted to talk about the whole time was bashing Obama, and that's it. There was no talk about like sports or TV. It was just so mainlining of the message. My name is Peter Ogburn. I'm sitting in for Bill Press today. Taking your calls at 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377. I waded into the murky waters of CPAC on Friday. We've been watching it. We've been talking about it. And I'm genuinely curious to know what you think at 866-55-PRESS about what this means to the Conservative Party, Republican Party, to conservatives around America. Rand Paul has been chosen as sort of the front runner of or the winner of the straw poll. Taking your comments on Twitter at BP Show. At BP Show. Wise Guy Eddie says, I disagree, Peter. I believe there are some smart Republicans somewhere, but people that call themselves conservatives are not smart. Jim Aylen says, Peter asks if Rand Paul is the face of the GOP. I'm thinking he's the other end of the GOP. And Don Griffith says, if plagiarism is criteria to become POTUS, Rand Paul would be a shoo-in. CPAC is nothing more than a meeting of ass clowns. Follow us on Twitter at BP Show, or follow me on Twitter at Peter Ogburn. And like I said, call us, 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377. We'd love to hear from you, just like we're about to hear from Helen in Ithaca, New York. Shout out, Helen. How you doing?
Hi.
Good morning, sunshine.
Peter.
How are you?
Good morning, Peter, and everyone. Happy Monday to you.
Hey now.
I know you prefer Friday, but today's Monday.
You're absolutely right, Helen.
But I'm kind of astounded why these Republicans are referencing Dr. Zeus and this green eggs and ham thing. I mean, Sarah Palin did it, and our senator from Texas, who is a self-proclaimed genius. I actually don't even know how he got into the... He looks down at... he only thinks 3 schools in this country are worth attending, and anything below that is, inferior. But they don't understand Dr. Zeus was a supporter of FDR. He was actually to the left of FDR. He's a socialist.
Yeah.
And so was Albert Einstein, and so was Helen Keller. So I'm like, why they're quoting Dr. Zeus? They don't even have a clue. Now, I understand Sarah Palin getting mixed up about that. But this boy genius, he should have had that figured out before he filibustered,
Boy genius. Yeah. I don't know that many people are calling Ted Cruz a boy genius, but I know where you're coming from, Helen. And it's a point Bill made at the time when Ted Cruz invoked Dr. Seuss in his filibuster. Yeah. I mean, Dr. Seuss was a phenomenal liberal.
Yeah.
So this idea that Republicans are now going to be using him in their speeches is pretty laughable. More calls on CPAC, 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377. Peter Ogren in for Bill Press.
The Bill Press Show.
Hey, friends, just a little break here and time out to tell you about something very, very important. It's that time again when we turn to you and ask for your help because we wouldn't be here without you. You know, it's so funny. Everywhere I go, people always say, man, you got 3 hours to fill every morning. How do you do it? How do you keep up with all of it? You know, well, let me tell you, we work hard at it. I mean, we start at the end of every show. The first thing we do, we just sit right down and start planning the next day's show and get a rough outline kind of where we want to go and what guests we might want to have and what we think the big issues are going to be. And then we go out and all day long, you know, we're watching the news, reading the news, looking at the websites, following everything. I'm down at the White House every day at the briefings and keeping on top of things down there. And then we, meantime, Peter and Elisa particularly are on the phone, booking our guests for the next day. We reconvene in a conference call at 5 o'clock every afternoon and find out what guests we've got and where we think we're going to go the next day in terms of issues and things we want to talk about. We're also watching that evening, and then the next morning before every show, we reconvene again and sit down and say and put it finally together. And then we're on the air. So, you know, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, but we love doing it, and we couldn't do it without you. That's the important thing, because Free Speech TV, no corporate money, no government money. It is all viewer contributions. We work only for you and depend on you and ask you to help us once again as generously as you can. And there's a little incentive to do so. You can go to freespeech.org, make your contribution, freespeech.org. If you can give us $120, that's $10 a month. We will send you a mug, a Bill Press mug, and a pound of coffee from Peregrine Coffee, our favorite coffee shop downstairs in this building, for $240 or $20 a month. From Cowgirl Creamery, the best cheese in the world, believe me, made in California, close to our home in California. A special package from Cowgirl Creamery. For $360 or $30 a month, you'll get the Cowgirl Creamery selection and a Bill Press mug as well. And a very special treat for those of you able to do so and willing to pledge $1,000 of Free Speech TV. You make your way to Washington anytime with a guest. I will take you and your guest out to dinner, some fabulous restaurant in Washington, and invite you in to watch the show the next morning. So I know you're part of the free speech community, or else you wouldn't be watching this morning. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your help in the past. And now please ask you to dig in again. You know how important it is. I know how much you depend on the independent expression of progressive opinion you only get on Free Speech TV. Now's the time to help again, and thank you.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
It is The Bill Press Show. Live on your favorite progressive radio station. Live on Free Speech TV. Live on the internet. Just go find the link to stream video on Twitter at BP Show. We've got the link there. We're not on Talker TV. Let me tell you something about YouTube really quick. So we stream our show on YouTube, and they have such a screwed up system on YouTube, right? So like what happens is basically we play some music during the commercial breaks. That's like, it's free for everybody to use. So we're using it, and like any company can make the claim that like, oh, they own that property, so that YouTube just shuts it down. It's the biggest hunk of garbage. So YouTube needs to get their act together. But until then, we're on Twitter at BP Show. We're still up on YouTube at another secret bunker location. So go there and check that out. You can let YouTube know how you feel about them taking us off of Talker TV. It's temporary, but we do have a fix. Just go to BP Show at BP Show on Twitter. So like I was saying, I went to CPAC last week on Friday afternoon, and I gotta tell you, I went to this party that was sponsored in large part by Freedom Works. So Alan West was there. Matt Bevins, the guy running against Mitch McConnell in Kentucky, the Tea Party candidate, he was there. He was in attendance, and it's so funny to me. It's funny and sad. I mean, if it was our side, it would be really sad, but. I was talking to one of her reporters, Olivia Nuzzi, who was in studio with us on Friday.
Oh, yeah.
I saw her at this party, and she and I were talking, and Alan West comes walking by, so she literally shoves me aside and goes running to Alan West to ask him a question. And she asked him about Bridgegate, because she covers the New Jersey beat, and just without even thinking about it, he turns on a dime and turns it onto Benghazi.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it was amazing to see how quickly he turned it onto Benghazi. So my question to you at 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377, is what does CPAC mean to conservatives? Rand Paul is your king of CPAC, however you want to put it. He's the winner of the straw poll. Ted Cruz came in second. And if you think that those are your two strongest candidates to run for president as a conservative, Rand Paul and Ted Cruz, I would respectfully disagree. 36 minutes past the hour. 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377. We have a couple lines open for you. If you call, let's go to Gary in Mount Hermon, Louisiana. Gary, good morning.
Morning.
Hey, have you been did you watch True Detective? It was set in Louisiana.
Yes, sir. That's a fine show.
That's a good show, man.
Yes, it was.
All right. What's your comment on CPAC?
Well, I was calling. You said you went to that CPAC meeting, and that you didn't hear him talking about any television shows or anything like that. But were you able to pick up on any kind of political discourse that they may be having?
Here's what I picked up on, Gary. That's a good question. Here's what I picked up on. But and to be fair, I was at some parties and events for some very, very, very conservative people, right? Like I could make the argument that the Marco Rubios and the Chris Christies wouldn't be caught dead in these parties. There were Freedom Works parties and one for a website, Rare, and one for Breitbart. And so these are people who are more anti-establishment than anything else. This is what I find fascinating, Gary. Talking to Matt Bevins, right? Because I spoke to him for a moment. Mitch McConnell is one of the most conservative lawmakers in the Senate. You cannot argue that. He is just beyond conservative. And he's been there forever, and he's got clout, and he can get things done, and he has power. And yet, this whole group of Republicans, they just want to see him go. And they believe that Matt Bevins or another Tea Party candidate in a different scenario is the answer. They're more like anti-Washington, D.C., anti-longtime politician. And so if that means that they have to sacrifice one of the most conservative members to make the point that they're out there and they're powerful, then that's what they'll do.
Well, evidently he's been around there a long time, too, because he's holding up a musket,
That thing where he held up that toy gun on stage on CPAC, it was a real gun, but he looked so uncomfortable. He looked painfully uncomfortable. I mean, he looks the way I would look if I was holding up a live rattlesnake on stage. Just scared, cautious, you know? So anyway, that's a good point, Gary. I'm glad you brought that up because we've seen this happen before, right? The Tea Party may not catch on, probably will not catch on in a national capacity, right? Like, it's not going to be this Tea Party movement that is going to be running the White House one day. Like, I really don't think that's going to happen. But when you have them stirring the pot and causing trouble for the likes of Lindsey Graham and Mitch McConnell, you saw what happened in Christine O'Donnell, I guess it was Delaware. And, you know, I mean, she got rid of a guy who was favored to win. So these Tea Party candidates do have an impact on elections. I just don't think that they're having the impact that actually matters and helps their cause. Susan in Worcester, Ohio. Is that right? Susan in Worcester, Ohio? What's up, Susan?
Yeah, that's right.
What's happening?
My comment is, you asked about the political race, the Ted Cruz thing. I was just watching MSNBC, and they were talking about recent polls that have all the traditional Republicans ahead. Like McConnell is ahead by 38 points in Kentucky. So I don't know about. I don't think the Tea Partiers are going to have much of a race, actually.
Well, I would pay closer attention to some other polls than just that poll, because I think that let's face facts here. Mitch McConnell's Tea Party challenger is not going to beat him. But what could happen, what's a possibility, is that they screw with him so much and take enough votes away that whatever power he may wield from being the incumbent gets chiseled away a little bit by this Tea Partier.
Yep, that's what'll happen.
And then the door opens for Allison Lundergan Grimes, who is a great candidate, by the way.
Yes, absolutely. If I lived in Kentucky, I'd vote for her.
But that's an interesting point, Susan, because nobody was mentioning Allison Lundergan Grimes. Like, nobody was mentioning that at these parties, right? It was all about the Tea Party candidate and all about Mitch McConnell. They're just so sort of blinded and obsessed with getting rid of this person that they don't really look at the actual contest. They look at the one that kind of sort of doesn't matter, this one with Matt Bevins.
Yeah.
So good call. Thanks so much, Susan. I appreciate it. Susan called 866-55-PRESS. We got plenty of room for you if you call us on that number. We're going to take a quick break. Got a lot more to talk about with Scott Bland. It's our Monday hit with the National Journal Hotline. Take a quick break. We'll come back and talk to him. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press today. 866-55-PRESS is our phone number. 866-557-7377. We'll be back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, friends, just a little break here and time out to tell you about something very, very important. It's that time again when we turn to you and ask for your help, because we wouldn't be here without you. It's so funny. Everywhere I go, people always say, man, you got 3 hours to fill every morning. How do you do it? How do you keep up with all of it? Well, let me tell you, we work hard at it. I mean, we start at the end of every show. The first thing we do, we just sit right down and start planning the next day's show and get a rough outline kind of where we want to go and what guests we might want to have and what we think the big issues are going to be. And then we go out and all day long, we're watching the news, reading the news, looking at the websites, following everything. I'm down at the White House every day at the briefings and keeping on top of things down there. And then we, meantime, Peter and Elisa particularly are on the phone, booking our guests for the next day. We reconvene in a conference call at 5 o'clock every afternoon and find out what guests we've got and where we think we're going to go the next day in terms of issues and things we want to talk about. We're also watching that evening, and then the next morning before every show, we reconvene again and sit down and put it finally together. and then we're on the air. So, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, but we love doing it, and we couldn't do it without you. That's the important thing, because Free Speech TV, no corporate money, no government money. It is all viewer contributions. We work only for you and depend on you, and ask you to help us once again as generously as you can. And there's a little incentive to do so. You can go to freespeech.org, make your contribution, freespeech.org. If you can give us $120, that's $10 a month. We will send you a mug, a Bill Press mug, and a pound of coffee from Peregrine Coffee, our favorite coffee shop downstairs in this building, for $240 or $20 a month. From Cowgirl Creamery, the best cheese in the world, believe me, made in California, close to our home in California. A special package from Cowgirl Creamery for $360 or $30 a month. You'll get the Cowgirl Creamery selection and a Bill Press mug as well. And a very special treat for those who are able to do so and willing to pledge $1,000 of Free Speech TV. You make your way to Washington anytime with a guest. I will take you and your guest out to dinner, some fabulous restaurant in Washington, and invite you in to watch the show the next morning. So I know you're part of the free speech community, or else you wouldn't be watching this morning. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your help in the past. And now please ask you to dig in again. You know how important it is. I know how much you depend on the independent expression of progressive opinion you only get on Free Speech TV. Now's the time to help again, and thank you.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
It is The Bill Press Show. Bill is out today, so I am filling in. My name is Peter Ogburn. Thank you so much for tuning in and joining the program. Remember, we are heard all around the country on your radio. You can also listen to us on the TuneIn app using the Progressive Voices channel, and on iHeartRadio on their app there, plus streaming live video. Follow us on Twitter at BP Show to see the live video. We've got the link there to YouTube. Go check it out. 46 minutes past the hour. It's Monday, and we usually like to check in with our friends from National Journal's Hotline on Mondays. Today is no different. We are talking to their senior analyst, Scott Bland, who's on the line with us. Scott, good morning.
Good morning.
You can follow him on Twitter at Hotline Scott, or online at nationaljournal.com. So let's start out. I've been talking a little bit this morning about CPAC. I found it pretty interesting that Rand Paul won the straw poll again. My big question, Scott, is sort of what does this mean moving forward for the big picture for Republicans?
Yeah. Straw polls in general are a little tricky to draw conclusions from, but I think one of the things that especially some of my colleagues who are really kind of digging into this stuff have been thinking about this is that it really highlights how the foreign policy thinking in at least certain parts of the Republican Party is changing. Rand Paul represents just a very, very different strain of foreign policy thinking than than Republican nominees going back for a very long time. And a very different strain from folks even like Ted Cruz, who are going to be kind of competing with him for certain parts of the very conservative Republican base in the primaries, and then especially folks like Marco Rubio, who kind of advocate a more muscular interventionist strain of foreign policy. And so, going forward, it'll be interesting to see how this develops and whether this becomes a real sticking point for Paul, or whether he and his family have really been ahead of the curve here and have kind of identified where the Republican Party is heading and whether it might be there with him in 2016.
That's interesting, because I think a lot of people, when they think of the conservative movement, think of it a lot on social issues and things here at home. But yeah, Rand Paul has really carved out a role for himself on world policy, and he even referenced it when he talked about his filibuster over drone warfare. So yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, I think this may be an overlooked aspect of his appeal and his potential candidacy. And going back to the drone filibuster is a really good point. I mean, a lot of his appeal kind of traces back to that in national terms, and that was about the time of CPAC last year, if I remember correctly, which made a lot of buzz. And it's just this question, whether he has kind of looked like he may have been a step too far for a lot of Republicans for some time, and whether the kind of broader evolution that the Republican Party is going through on foreign policy will have caught up to him in time for him to run for president.
So, when you look at this year's CPAC, right, you had Chris Christie, you had Marco Rubio, you had Rand Paul, you had Ted Cruz, and you could maybe not Ted Cruz, but with the rest of them, you could say they're all serious contenders, right? They've all got a shot at the front runner of being the nominee for the Republican Party. But then they also put out people like Donald Trump. They embraced Ralph Reed, Rick Santorum. Sarah Palin gave the big closer speech again this year. So it seems like they have a little bit of an identity crisis in the sense that they're putting out somewhat reasonable candidates and real legitimate candidates. And then, once you put Donald Trump up there next to Chris Christie, it seems to diminish what they're up to.
Yeah, I think there's something to that. And don't forget Ben Carson also.
And Ben Carson. He registered on that straw poll, right? He got some votes on there.
Yeah. I think he actually did quite well. He was third place behind Paul and Cruz.
Wow.
Yeah, and actually, so that is kind of one of the interesting things. So Carson finished third, Rubio kind of, and this gets a little bit to kind of what goes, what you were talking about identity. Over the past year, right, Marco Rubio has been very involved in immigration legislation, which has kind of proved to be really more or less dead in the House, if not completely dead, due to kind of a conservative backlash against that. And his drop in the straw poll was 23 points from 2013 to 6 in 2014. I think that kind of speaks to what you're getting at here about the identity of this confab and what's going into the thinking of the folks voting there. And it's a tricky environment to navigate for if you're in office, because you can naturally end up doing things that are going to irritate a lot of people. But then again, this is not the only crowd that Rubio and folks like him have to appeal to, and it's for all the media coverage it gets, it's hard to remember that sometimes, but it's important to remember that.
Yeah. Did Chris Christie or Marco Rubio, either one of them, win any of that group over? I know that I saw that Christie sort of at one point said, essentially telling the CPAC crowd, maybe not what they wanted to hear, but what they needed to hear in terms of the fact that Republicans have lost the last 5 out of the 6 popular vote on the presidential election, and sort of giving them some hard truths. How did they handle that?
I think he was received pretty well, and I think that this is there's still suspicion of him, obviously, but I think that that's the kind of thing he's going to have to be concentrating on, right? That's his calling card as the governor of a very blue state, and that's been his kind of modus operandi as a governor. He has not backed down from kind of exercising that way of thinking, and for him to get back on track, that's really what he is going to have to be preaching and will be preaching as he kind of goes around the country. Working for other Republican governors, and I think this was a preview of what we're going to be seeing more of from him in 2014. And it did not fall flat. Far from it. I think I think it was a pretty good showing for him.
All right. Good stuff. Scott Bland from National Journal Hotline. Follow him on Twitter at Hotline Scott and online at nationaljournal.com. Thank you so much, Scott. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. It's Peter Ogburn in for Bill Press today. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, friends, just a little break here and time out to tell you about something very, very important. It's that time again when we turn to you and ask for your help because we wouldn't be here without you. You know, it's so funny. Everywhere I go, people always say, man, you got 3 hours to fill every morning. How do you do it? How do you keep up with all of it? You know, well, let me tell you, we work hard at it. I mean, we start at the end of every show. The first thing we do, we just sit right down and start planning the next day's show and get a rough outline kind of where we want to go and what guests we might want to have and what we think the big issues are going to be. And then we go out and all day long, you know, we're watching the news, reading the news, looking at the websites, following everything. I'm down at the White House every day at the briefings and keeping on top of things down there. And then we, meantime, Peter and Elisa particularly are on the phone, booking our guests for the next day. We reconvene in a conference call at 5 o'clock every afternoon and find out what guests we've got and where we think we're going to go the next day in terms of issues and things we want to talk about. We're also watching that evening, and then the next morning before every show, we reconvene again and sit down and say and put it finally together. And then we're on the air. So, you know, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, but we love doing it, and we couldn't do it without you. That's the important thing, because Free Speech TV, no corporate money, no government money. It is all viewer contributions. We work only for you and depend on you and ask you to help us once again as generously as you can. And there's a little incentive to do so. You can go to freespeech.org, make your contribution, freespeech.org. If you can give us $120, that's $10 a month. We will send you a mug, a Bill Press mug, and a pound of coffee from Peregrine Coffee, our favorite coffee shop downstairs in this building, for $240 or $20 a month. From Cowgirl Creamery, the best cheese in the world, believe me, made in California, close to our home in California. A special package from Cowgirl Creamery. For $360 or $30 a month, you'll get the Cowgirl Creamery selection and a Bill Press mug as well. And a very special treat for those who are able to do so and willing to pledge $1,000 of Free Speech TV. You make your way to Washington anytime with a guest. I will take you and your guest out to dinner, some fabulous restaurant in Washington, and invite you in to watch the show the next morning. So I know you're part of the free speech community, or else you wouldn't be watching this morning. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your help in the past. And now please ask you to dig in again. You know how important it is. I know how much you depend on the independent expression of progressive opinion you only get on Free Speech TV. Now's the time to help again, and thank you.
This is the Bill Press Show.
My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press today. Thank you so much for tuning in, wherever you are. I love this story out of Florida. So Florida is now suspending the use of corporal punishment in their schools. Yeah, they still do corporate punishment in the schools in Florida in certain counties. They were paddling. And so they're getting rid of it finally. It's 2014. I think we could get rid of paddling of students in the schools. I got paddled once in school, by the way. I grew up in South Carolina. You familiar with this?
I didn't know that
you're Canadian. You're Canadian, where you're much more civilized.
Yes.
If you got in trouble and you got in like deep trouble, they not only would like suspend you or whatever, they would bend you over the desk and get a wooden paddle. And the principal would give you like 3 or 4 like hard swats.
How old were you?
I was in 7th grade. When I got 6th or 7th grade when I got mine.
I can't believe that's still there. Wow.
6th grade. It's exactly that. Thank you, sir. May I have another? Anyway, good for Florida. It looks like they're getting rid of corporal punishment in schools. Welcome to 2014.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey friends, lots to talk about today. I know you're enjoying the show so far, but important to take time out for a little reminder about Free Speech TV and how we depend on you. And you are so important. And I'm so proud to be part of this great Free Speech TV network because, look, this has been a big cause of mine for a long time. And that is how tough it is to find good, progressive opinion and commentary in this country anymore because the media is so lopsided to the right. I mean, if you look at talk radio, for example, there are about 2,000 news talk stations in the country. Maybe only 50 or 60 of them are progressive talk radio stations, and that's probably being, like generous. And on television, what do you got? You got Fox News far to the right. You got the corporate media, CBS and NBC and ABC. Even MSNBC is not progressive 24/7, as we know. There's only one 24/7 progressive television network you can count on, and that is Free Speech TV. But we're only there because of you, and we wouldn't be there without your help. And this is a time of the year that we turn to you again and ask for your help to keep free speech on the air and to keep your favorite progressives out there with you every single day. We ask you to be as generous as you can in making a pledge to Free Speech TV. And here's something you ought to consider. If you can give us $120, make that kind of a pledge to Free Speech TV, that's $10 a month, you'll get a Bill Press Show mug and a pound of coffee from Peregrine Coffee, our favorite coffee shop in the world. It's right downstairs in our building. If you can pledge $240 or $20 a month from Cowgirl Creamery in California, take it from me, the best cheese in the world, better than France or Switzerland. Cowgirl Creamery, it's great. For $360 or $30 a month for that kind of a pledge, we'll send you another treat from Cowgirl Creamery, plus a Bill Press Show mug. And if there's any way you can pledge $1,000, a very special treat for you, you make your way to Washington, and I will take you and a friend out to dinner and then invite you into the studio here to watch the show the next morning. That would be a lot of fun. Hope you can take advantage of it. But however you can help, if it's $120, $240, or $360, or the big one for $1,000, we ask you just to dig in, be as generous as you can. It's so important to keep our progressive voices on the air, to keep Free Speech TV on the air. And there's one independent television channel that has no corporate money, no government money. All of our money comes from our viewers. We work only for you. We're happy to do so, but we also depend on your help. Please be as generous as you can. Thank you.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
In 1920s America, the Great Depression effectively erased consumer demand. Struggling manufacturers needed new ways to get people buying again. Innovative production processes like stamping and use of molds allowed them to use new materials for their designs. Products using vinyl, chrome, aluminium and plywood began appearing. American industrial designers began introducing streamlined, efficient shapes that shouted progress. Bel Geddes pioneered what we now refer to as utilitarian art. Things that had little reason to look sleek now all of a sudden did. At the 1939 World Fair featuring Bel Geddes' immensely popular Futurama exhibit, a new era of American industrial design proudly claimed to be building the world of tomorrow. Americans found great positivity in these futuristic forms. Yay. Things were looking up. American industrial designers realised that by making objects look great, people simply wanted them more. From cars to kitchen appliances, the most influential society on earth was spending money again. Mass consumption had arrived. Advertisers finally had lots to talk about. Personal taste could be expressed through the things you bought. Style became equally as important as function. Chair designers like Eames and Saarinen didn't just design seating, they created desirable lifestyles. People behind the products suddenly were stars. Everyone wanted to know who they were. Raymond Loewy was one of the shining lights of American industrial design. His face ended up on every coffee table in the nation. Toothpaste packaging promised whiter teeth. Washing powder packaging promised whiter whites. Who knew such simple household objects would shape the tastes and ambitions of an entire society? American industrial design improved America, functionally, culturally and intellectually, and exported it around the globe.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
Good morning. Happy Monday. It is the Bill Press Show, March 10th. Clearly, I am not Bill Press. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill for the next couple of days till he gets back. He's on the road doing God only knows what. I mean, you never know with him. Streaming the show live on YouTube. Go to our Twitter page or follow us on Twitter at BP Show, where we have the link to watch. Heard on your favorite progressive radio station, streaming live audio on the TuneIn app. Use the Progressive Voices channel, and on iHeartRadio as well. As I said, my name is Peter Ogburn. Sitting in today, we have Elisa Murphy running the board.
Good
Good
morning.
morning. We have Alicia Cruz screening the phone calls. If you call 866-55-PRESS, you will be lucky enough to talk to Alicia. And if you're watching the video today, you are doing so because Cyprian Bolding is there keeping us live on the air. Cyprian and I were just talking off the air because the last story I did there was about how there are still some counties in Florida that use corporal punishment. They paddle students when they get in trouble. And I didn't get a chance. I didn't have the time to tell my whole paddle story, which Cyprian was asking about. So I was like in the 6th or 7th grade, and I was taking the bus home, and I had some leftover fireworks. I went to school in South Carolina. Right, we could get high-grade explosives and call them fireworks. So a friend and I decided we were going to light some firecrackers and throw them out the window of the bus. Except if you've ever lit those little firecrackers, the fuse is so fast. So I'm holding it, and he lights it, and I go to throw it, and it just explodes in my hand. Right?
Oh, no.
And there was no damage to my hand or anything, but it was, we lit a firecracker on a bus full of children.
Oh, my goodness.
Naturally, there was some cause for alarm. But the bus driver, terrible idea, by the way. Bus driver turns around, takes us back to school. Our principal was this short gentleman. I mean, I've always been taller than everybody else, bigger than everybody else. So he was just like, okay, well, we think you should probably get paddled. We're not going to suspend you or anything. We're going to paddle you because you know better than to do something this dumb, but we still have to punish you. My parents gave him the okay.
Wow.
They threw me under the bus.
Quite literally.
So I was not that worried about it because of this principal. No. Our assistant principal was the offensive line coach for the football team at the high school. So he rolls up into the office and takes essentially what is like a cricket bat with holes drilled into it, right? You know, to cut down on the wind resistance.
Oh, my goodness.
And I got three swats. He comes in, he goes, bend over the desk. So I have to bend over the desk, and he assumes the stance. And he gave me 3 hard whacks, man. He nailed it.
Wow. I seriously thought that it would have been gone since like the 60s or 70s.
Yeah, no. No, this was, 90s or whatever. Still happened. Early 90s, like 90, 91, I guess. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, you grew up in Canada where you don't have such barbarian behavior.
In the 7th grade, I was in California, and we didn't have anything like
California
that.
also a little bit more enlightened than the American South.
You had to maybe write your
overall.
name on the wall about 100 times. That was our idea of
That was your big punishment?
And your arm was tired.
Yeah. My ass was tired. Well, like, you know, it's funny because, like, that's just how, like, that was sort of the culture. Like, my parents did the whole, like, my dad had the belt, my mom had the switches.
Wow.
Like, my mom, the worst is, like, if you get in trouble, she would make us go outside and pick our own switch.
Wow.
The ultimate in like,
shame.
Total shame. And God help you if you got a bad switch, because, like,
oh, no.
She saw right through it. You get, like, a weak, thin switch, forget it. Now that I'm a parent, I should make it clear. I'm a parent of 2 kids. We don't do the spanking or paddling or whooping or any of that stuff.
Do you have the elf on the shelf?
My wife does the elf on the shelf.
Oh, okay.
We do like the timeout situations. Right?
Okay.
Like you go to timeout,
Mm-hmm.
and then we also we don't punish bad behavior as much as we reward good behavior. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
So we've got like the board where they have check marks for all their good behavior, and then when they get there, then they get a little something special.
Oh, that's good.
Right.
Parenting with Peter
we're
Ogburn.
forward thinking. You know, boring liberals. You know?
Very effective parenting, though. I bet.
Yeah. There you go. All right. So, like I said, last week, over the weekend was CPAC. Someone who's been covering that extensively is Katie Glueck, political reporter for Politico. We've had Katie on before, and she joins us now on the phone. Katie, good morning. Happy Monday.
Good morning. Happy Monday. Thanks for having me back.
Thank you for coming on in one of the earlier segments, because I know that the daylight saving time, screws with people. We're all pretty miserable this morning.
But it's supposed to, we were just talking earlier, it's supposed to be so nice out today, so I think that should make up for a little bit.
Which is, it kind of makes up to it for it, but all I want to do is go home and nap.
Right.
Because I lost out, so it's going to be a beautiful day, and I'm going to be inside napping.
Right. Yeah, it's the trade-off.
Yeah. So tell us about CPAC and what you found. I mean, I find it interesting that this year there were so many mainstream conservative possible candidates for president rubbing elbows with the likes of Ben Carson and Donald Trump and folks like that.
Sure. So CPAC, of course, annual gathering brings together all stripes of the conservative movement, the Republican Party, from social conservatives, fiscal conservatives, hawks, libertarians, etc. Especially this year, there was a big showing from some kind of the younger, more libertarian-leaning side of the spectrum. That was very much in evidence. Senator Rand Paul did extremely well in the straw poll there at the end of the weekend, as he did last year. And you could really see lots of people kind of decked out in the Stand with Rand shirts. Really did kind of seem to be the man of the moment, if you will, this weekend. But
by the way, just before we go further, why do you think that is right now? Is that because he's just got the right message, or does he still have the youthful attendees, or is he picking up on some of his father's fans? What's the deal?
Sure, and it certainly varies from crowd to crowd. But with regard to this crowd, definitely it's a slice of the conservative base. But it was a slice that perhaps did include some younger segments, some more libertarian-leaning segments. If you take a look at his speech on Friday, really kind of a sharp departure from the kinds of speeches typically been offering, when he's kind of out giving addresses, which is something that he has been doing very actively, speaking to all kinds of conservative groups. Typically his message is a little bit more one of jabbing government spending and taxes and, sometimes doing it in kind of a wry, understated way, and then going on to sort of talk more about the importance of broadening the Republican base. But what we saw on Friday was, really, for him, at least kind of a barn burner, making a very strong pitch for a more libertarian-looking approach for the Republican Party, and that was something that played very well with this particular crowd.
So talk about some of the other folks we saw there, some other highlights for you.
Sure. Another big moment, of course, is Governor Chris Christie was there, notable because, of course, last year he wasn't even invited. But this was kind of his big moment to approach kind of a large gathering of, kind of the conservative movement, and really the first such opportunity since the Bridgegate traffic scandal broke earlier this year that has kind of been really consuming his administration. So that was a big moment. He was received well. And actually another kind of standout moment was Governor Rick Perry, who, of course, ran for president in 2012. That his attempt to score the Republican nomination kind of floundered a little bit, as I'm sure some listeners will remember. But he was, extremely well received at CPAC. He gave a very fiery speech on Friday. It was perhaps one of the best received speeches of the conference. I mean, halfway through, he had the whole room up on its feet, standing ovations, applause. He was referenced several times, and this does come as he is mulling another presidential bid. So another very interesting moment.
It seems to me that Marco Rubio and Chris Christie had a lot of work to do in terms of appealing to that base that was at CPAC, and it sounds like, at least in Christie's case, he might have gotten that done.
Definitely, it was a moment that went well for him. He got standing ovations coming in, going out, and he definitely knew his audience, a more kind of conservative crowd. So that was it was a positive moment for him. It looked like. With Senator Rubio, he, of course, right after the 2012 election, he was often discussed as perhaps the frontrunner for the Republican 2016 nomination. He's since had some challenges, as some conservatives have been, upset with him over immigration, over a number of other issues. So he chose at this conference to talk actually more kind of about his views on foreign intervention, which is something that perhaps it would come up in a general election kind of debate or a primary debate. But at this point, it did seem that the crowd was kind of more interested in talking about domestic issues. So another interesting moment to watch.
And that brings us to Sarah Palin, who gave her big speech on Saturday to close out the festivities. What is the role of Sarah Palin these days?
She's still involved, very much involved in sort of the conservative grassroots process. She of course she's still sort of out in the public sphere, on social media, sometimes on Fox. But kind of within the conservative grassroots, she's out there endorsing, and with a section of that base, that's an endorsement that still means a lot. You take a look at the Texas primary. A couple weeks ago, she got involved and she made her endorsements, and particularly in one House race of a woman named Katrina Pearson, who was a Tea Party challenger, ran unsuccessfully. The endorsement didn't propel her to victory, but at the same time, it was something that sort of others within the conservative grassroots and the Tea Party wing of the party were very much pointing to and touting. So she's certainly, with that segment of that base, remains a kind of a beloved figure and an influential one.
All right, Katie Glueck from Politico. Katie, I appreciate you coming on. You can follow her at Katie_Glueck, Glueck, or online at Politico.com. Thanks so much, Katie. I appreciate it.
Great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
The recap of CPAC there from Politico. My name is Peter Ogburn. I'm sitting in for Bill Press. We are going to take a quick break and come back. We've got a lot of other good stuff to talk about. Stay tuned.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, friends, just a little break here and time out to tell you about something very, very important. It's that time again when we turn to you and ask for your help because we wouldn't be here without you. You know, it's so funny. Everywhere I go, people always say, man, you got 3 hours to fill every morning. How do you do it? How do you keep up with all of it? Well, let me tell you, we work hard at it. I mean, we start at the end of every show. The first thing we do, we just sit right down and start planning the next day's show and get a rough outline kind of where we want to go and what guests we might want to have and what we think the big issues are going to be. And then we go out and all day long, we're watching the news, reading the news, looking at the websites, following everything. I'm down at the White House every day at the briefings and keeping on top of things down there. And then we, meantime, Peter and Elisa particularly are on the phone, booking our guests for the next day. We reconvene in a conference call at 5 o'clock every afternoon and find out what guests we've got and where we think we're going to go the next day in terms of issues and things we want to talk about. We're also watching that evening, and then the next morning before every show, we reconvene again and sit down and put it finally together. And then we're on the air. So, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, but we love doing it, and we couldn't do it without you. That's the important thing, because Free Speech TV, no corporate money, no government money. It is all viewer contributions. We work only for you and depend on you and ask you to help us once again as generously as you can. And there's a little incentive to do so. You can go to freespeech.org, make your contribution, freespeech.org. If you can give us $120, that's $10 a month. We will send you a mug, a Bill Press mug, and a pound of coffee from Peregrine Coffee, our favorite coffee shop downstairs in this building, for $240 or $20 a month. From Cowgirl Creamery, the best cheese in the world, believe me, made in California, close to our home in California. A special package from Cowgirl Creamery. For $360 or $30 a month, you'll get the Cowgirl Creamery selection and a Bill Press mug as well. And a very special treat for those who are able to do so and willing to pledge $1,000 of Free Speech TV. You make your way to Washington anytime with a guest. I will take you and your guest out to dinner, some fabulous restaurant in Washington, and invite you in to watch the show the next morning. So I know you're part of the free speech community, or else you wouldn't be watching this morning. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your help in the past. And now please ask you to dig in again. You know how important it is. I know how much you depend on the independent expression of progressive opinion you only get on Free Speech TV. Now's the time to help again, and thank you.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
It is The Bill Press Show. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press today. You can follow me on Twitter at Peter Ogburn. I'm tweeting there throughout the show and at the Bill Press account at BP Show. Definitely make sure you follow at BP Show on Twitter. Thank you so much for being here today. So I know we've talked a lot about CPAC. We've got more coming up, and I know it's fun to talk about. But I find this story fascinating because one of the things that Bill de Blasio, the mayor of New York City, said when he was running for mayor is that he was going to get rid of the horse-drawn carriages that go around Central Park, which they are a little silly, I think. I think that if you're the type of person that goes and your ideal trip to New York includes a trip in a horse-drawn carriage around New York, you should get out more. You should get out more.
But it's so romantic.
No, it's not. No, it's not. It's not. So he is now moving forward with this, but he's getting a little bit of heat from some high places. Let's first start off with de Blasio. He continues to talk about how he wants to meet with these stable owners that have these horses, but he still believes he should ban them.
I'm firm about the fact that we have to make this move. That being said, the reason I want to visit the stables, and we'll do it when the schedule allows, is because we want to work with the folks who operate those horse carriages and get them new opportunities in other types of related work.
Okay, so that's his argument, and he says how he's going to move forward with it. Hollywood actor Liam Neeson is not okay with this. He likes the horses. He says that they're being treated very well.
These horses are well cared for. The mayor wants to replace them with electric cars. That's exactly what New York needs, more cars.
Boy, he's worked up.
Yeah,
and I don't want to say, like, look, I'm not like some hardcore animal rights activist here, you know. But I will say, like, it does seem in an area like New York, you got these horses and you force them to drag these fat tourists around all the time. Like, what kind of existence is that? Like, let the horses out, go run somewhere, you know, on the field.
That's true.
That's my take. I think de Blasio is onto something. Liam Neeson goes on and he says he talks more about it.
This is an industry that's been here since before Abraham Lincoln's first inauguration, 1858.
You know what else was around before Lincoln's inauguration?
What?
Slavery. We got rid of that too because it was outdated and dumb.
Oh.
I'm not comparing this to slavery. I'm just saying, like, don't make the argument that, like, oh, it's been around for such a long time, we have to keep it. It seems a little silly. 866-55-PRESS is our phone number, 866-557-7377. Would love to hear what you have to say about whether or not New York City should ban these horse-drawn carriages. I, for one, am okay with it. I think if you're going to go to New York and you want to see Central Park, walk around it. If you want to do something romantic, go to a restaurant, do a little effort, pull a little effort in.
Help the economy, right?
Help the economy. Don't just go and get on one of these gaudy, tacky carriages. You know what I mean? You see these guys that have to wear top hats, drag you around, while you have to, you know, like you got the flowers with your partner in the back, and the champagne or whatever.
Have you ever been on one?
No, that's right. I'm passing judgment without actually having done it. I can see the look on your face. You don't have to say it. Right? I can feel the shade you were throwing me without you actually saying anything. But that's the point. Like, I look at it and I go, that's silly. That's silly. Don't do that. And also, like, let's find a better use for these horses.
But it's weird how, I guess, Liam Neeson, the argument, he's saying that instead of the horses, now they want to have electric cars.
Well, I don't think they're going to have electric cars piddling you around Central Park.
Yeah, but it's interesting.
Yeah. Have you ever done one of these carriage rides?
Yes, I have.
Tell us all about it. Was it wonderful? Was it magical?
I thought it was a great little experience. And I think also, too, it is a great way to see Central Park.
So just to be clear, Elisa is pro horse torture. I am a friend of the horse. I like to see them running wild and free, whereas you clearly are okay with horse torture.
And I had a pony as a child,
Just
so I grew up with horses.
Oh, we'll have to explore this. We'll have to explore this a little bit more. All right. It's the Bill Press Show. Sabrina Siddiqui is in studio with us next. We'll be back talking to her. Stay tuned.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey friends, lots to talk about today. I know you're enjoying the show so far, but important to take time out for a little reminder about Free Speech TV and how we depend on you. And you are so important. And I'm so proud to be part of this great Free Speech TV network because, look, this has been a big cause of mine for a long time. And that is how tough it is to find good, progressive opinion and commentary in this country anymore because the media is so lopsided to the right. I mean, if you look at talk radio, for example, there are about 2,000 news talk stations in the country. Maybe only 50 or 60 of them are progressive talk radio stations, and that's probably being, like generous. And on television, what do you got? You got Fox News far to the right. You got the corporate media, CBS and NBC and ABC. Even MSNBC is not progressive 24/7, as we know. There's only one 24/7 progressive television network you can count on, and that is Free Speech TV. But we're only there because of you, and we wouldn't be there without your help. And this is a time of the year that we turn to you again and ask for your help to keep free speech on the air and to keep your favorite progressives out there with you every single day. We ask you to be as generous as you can in making a pledge to Free Speech TV. And here's something you ought to consider. If you can give us $120, make that kind of a pledge to Free Speech TV, that's $10 a month, you'll get a Bill Press Show mug and a pound of coffee from Peregrine Coffee, our favorite coffee shop in the world. It's right downstairs in our building. If you can pledge $240 or $20 a month from Cowgirl Creamery in California, take it from me, the best cheese in the world, better than France or Switzerland. Cowgirl Creamery, it's great. For $360 or $30 a month for that kind of a pledge, we'll send you another treat from Cowgirl Creamery, plus a Bill Press Show mug. And if there's any way you can pledge $1,000, a very special treat for you, you make your way to Washington, and I will take you and a friend out to dinner and then invite you into the studio here to watch the show the next morning. That would be a lot of fun. Hope you can take advantage of it. But however you can help, if it's $120, $240, or $360, or the big one for $1,000, we ask you just to dig in, be as generous as you can. It's so important to keep our progressive voices on the air, to keep Free Speech TV on the air. And this one independent television channel that has no corporate money, no government money. All of our money comes from our viewers. We work only for you. We're happy to do so, but we also depend on your help. Please be as generous as you can. Thank you.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
It is the Bill Press Show. 33 minutes past the hour on this Monday, March 10th. I am not Bill Press. My name is Peter Ogburn. I am in studio hosting for Bill until he gets back a little bit later on this week. Have no fear, he will return. What I do when I fill in, by the way, is I surround myself with smart people who know what they're talking about. Not unlike the way that a donut surrounds an empty, vacuous hole with wonderful goodness. So today I brought in studio Sabrina Siddiqui from Huffington Post. Sabrina, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
How horrible is this daylight saving time, by the way?
It's pretty awful.
The worst.
I love to sleep, so I think that someone was telling me you should only have felt the extra losing the 1 hour yesterday. I'm like, no, it'll take me a week.
No.
It'll take me a good time.
Easy.
Amount of time.
Easy a week. Like this morning, the alarm clock goes off and it's like, no.
Well, the flip side is nice because the sun will stay out later. It's just that it's so awesome when you have the previous daylight savings and you get that extra hour of sleep. That's so key.
Yeah.
But it's okay.
The problem for me and the problem for other like morning show producers or people who work on a morning show, it's like if we wanted to go to bed super early to make up for it, it's still daylight out.
It's still daylight. Plus, you've got some kids.
Yeah, but I mean, who's paid attention to that? they practically raised themselves.
Yeah. What did you do with Bill?
What do you mean?
Like, where is he?
I have no idea. He just didn't show up. So we're just like winging it. No, Bill's giving a speech. He's on the road. And so he's in Las Vegas. And the last time Bill went to Las Vegas, it was a total. You'll have to ask Cyprian about what happened.
He gambled the whole show.
He
That's what I heard.
gambled. We got phone calls late at night, weird video messages from Bill. You'll have to ask Cyprian. It's 35 minutes past the hour. So I'm here, and Sabrina, thank you so much for coming in. So I went down to CPAC on Friday, which I know you were there too. I basically just went to the parties.
I basically just worked, so I'm very jealous. I didn't see a single party.
Oh, really?
Well, I was just back in DC by 6. I didn't want to stay.
That's when I showed up.
It was Friday. It was the end of a long week. I'd been covering, Ukraine on the Hill in response to that, and then next thing I'm at CPAC. I'd never been there before. I think it was more tame than I expected it to be, or that I had heard it to be. So I was a little disappointed. I don't know if it was the day that I went, or that it's not surrounding a presidential race, but I was just ready to go home and go to bed. Yeah. I'm old.
My big takeaway from my time at CPAC, because I was at a couple of parties, I just sort of wandered around. First of all, a lot of dudes there, right?
There were.
Which is interesting. I mean, it shouldn't be surprising, I guess, when you think about some of the platforms of
a lot of dudes wearing American flag shorts with loafers.
Yo, the loafers there. There were so many loafers.
So many loafers.
Like, just everybody had loafers.
And it was a lot of young people, though, I must say.
Yeah.
And I think that was good for them because the original intent had been to kind of draw out young conservative activists, something they had maybe lost a little bit in recent years.
Yeah.
I think maybe because they are excited about people like Rand Paul and even Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio, there were a lot more younger folks drawn out to this year's conference than the last couple of years where that was kind of wavering.
So, you mentioned a couple of high-profile names there that spoke. There were some others, like Donald Trump and Ralph Reed and Rick Santorum. And, I'm fascinated by the fact that this could be a big moment for Republicans. And they could say, like, these group of people are our best and our brightest. Chris Christie, Marco Rubio, Rand Paul. You could even put Ted Cruz on that list. But then when you end up putting clown shows in there, then it takes away from the whole event.
It always does, and that's sort of the perennial problem that Republicans face and will continue to face, not just honestly in the presidential election year, but even when you look at midterms. There's always the couple of Tea Party candidates or just uber conservatives who say things that they would rather run away from. They don't want to attract headlines for all the wrong reasons. I think with CPAC this year, they weren't as concerned about it because it's a midterm year where they feel very strong about their chances to maybe take back the Senate. Of course, they'll regain control of the House, retain, I should say. So I think that there was not a lot of absurdity in terms of what was said that people aren't already used to from the likes of Donald Trump and Ralph Reed and Rick Santorum. But by and large, I don't think Rand Paul, Marco Rubio, Rick Perry even, or Chris Christie felt like they had to go above and beyond to appease to these hard right voters by saying anything outrageous.
Hey, Elisa, grab that clip of Sarah Palin that we played earlier, because you may not know, some of you may not know this, but I do a podcast called Pints on Pennsylvania Avenue, and we sit around, we talk politics and drink beer. And Sabrina, you and Evan McMorris Santoro were on my podcast last week.
Yes.
And one of the things we talked about was, what prop is Sarah Palin going to use, right? Like, we all knew it was coming because last year she did the big gulp, and we knew something was going to come. This year, she brought a prop. She brought Dr. Seuss's Green Eggs and Ham. Here she is talking about it.
I do not like this Uncle Sam. I do not like his healthcare scam. I do not like...
So there you go.
What's with Republicans and green eggs and ham, though? Is that the new thing? Because Ted Cruz and his 21-hour fake filibuster, his talkathon, read it, of course, as a bedtime story to his daughters. Pretty clever political moment just for the number of replays, although the point was to use it to kind of make a point about Obamacare, and then everyone kind of sat around scratching their heads thinking, except the whole point is he thinks he doesn't like green eggs and ham, but then he realizes how great green eggs and ham are. And so does he realize that maybe with Obamacare, he should have probably done what Sarah Palin did, paraphrase it.
Yeah, exactly. And not to mention, Dr. Seuss was like a total liberal. Right? I mean, the fact if he knew that Ted Cruz and Sarah Palin were out invoking him, that would probably be a problem.
These guys,
they don't care. That's a good point. Yeah, they probably don't care. So Sarah Palin, with her big speech, what was your takeaway from that, and what is her future to the Republican Party, I guess?
Well, the thing is that, the whole joke about Sarah Palin has been, you say her name and someone says who? Like, is she relevant anymore? And the reality is that she's still a conservative superstar. So is she going to actually do anything meaningful within the party? No, not really. I mean, she's going to show up at these speeches, excite a lot of really, of course, sort of Tea Party activist types, get them riled up. And I think that in terms of, if you look at any serious candidates who campaign for president, it's not like they go out of their way to seek her endorsement, nor does it really impact their chances. She very belatedly endorsed Mitt Romney when he selected Paul Ryan as his VP. That had no impact on the race whatsoever.
Right.
Nor did, Mitt Romney go out, at least not that we know of, to say, hey, come fundraise with me. Because I just think that her political influence on a larger scale, of course, has waned if it was ever really there. It's just a question, again, of someone for them who knows how to raise money for herself, and who can come out and I guess just rail against Obamacare, pick up some of the typical talking points, but really for nothing more than what we're doing now, which is talk about her after the fact, play some clips on TV, and that's really it.
Yeah, guilty.
Well, I'm doing it too. We were waiting for her. We were waiting to see what she'd do. Because it's just she's just good at what she does for what she's trying to do. It's her own branding. It's her own celebrity. And she's kept it alive.
So the big winner of CPAC in terms of the straw poll. So top three finishers for top in the straw poll of who they want to see run for president. Number 1, Rand Paul with a convincing win. Number 2, Ted Cruz. And number 3, Ben Carson. I mean...
Ben Carson, 2016. That's it.
These are the three best
He's
and
our
brightest,
president
apparently.
next, for sure. Look, Rand Paul, second year in a row. Little surprise. I mean, what I was struck by when I was there was just the number of young, not just young people, but how many people there were sporting Stand With Rand t-shirts or some sort of Rand Paul, I guess, merchandise. Because really you saw, I think, a big segment of this audience being of the libertarian variety, and the Paulites, of course, that we know have a very, very strong and deep support system. I mean, he's benefiting, of course, from his father and his father's base, but that group of people it's sort of, when you see them and when you see the issues that they care about, it also helps him because he doesn't make headlines there for the wrong reasons either. He can just go out there. His entire speech was predictable, but if you saw the reaction in the crowd, it was remarkable that, the response Sarah Palin got for her green eggs and ham shtick, that's what Rand Paul was getting throughout for just railing on the NSA.
Right.
And that's not something that Democrats can hold up and say, well, Rand Paul, is a staunch defender of civil liberties. At best, they could try to see how genuine he is. Does his record match the rhetoric? But then even then, I mean, the Democrats don't want to make the NSA a major issue because it's their own president.
Right, exactly.
So what are they supposed to do other than just sit there and say, okay, we'll just highlight his record with women, we'll highlight his record with minorities, we'll go through all the other typical sort of, immigration, healthcare, the other sort of points that they feel they have a strong standing against the GOP.
Yeah, good stuff. We need to take a quick break. It's 44 minutes past the hour. Sabrina Siddiqui is in studio with us for the rest of the hour. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill. You can follow us on Twitter at BP Show. Stream video live there. And give us a call. We'll hear what you have to say about CPAC. 866-55-PRESS. 866-557-7377. Tune in. Check it out.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, friends, just a little break here and time out to tell you about something very, very important. It's that time again when we turn to you and ask for your help because we wouldn't be here without you. It's so funny. Everywhere I go, people always say, man, you got 3 hours to fill every morning. How do you do it? How do you keep up with all of it? Well, let me tell you, we work hard at it. I mean, we start at the end of every show. The first thing we do, we just sit right down and start planning the next day's show and get a rough outline kind of where we want to go and what guests we might want to have and what we think the big issues are going to be. And then we go out and all day long, we're watching the news, reading the news, looking at the websites, following everything. I'm down at the White House every day at the briefings and keeping on top of things down there. And then we, meantime, Peter and Elisa particularly are on the phone, booking our guests for the next day. We reconvene in a conference call at 5 o'clock every afternoon and find out what guests we've got and where we think we're going to go the next day in terms of issues and things we want to talk about. We're also watching that evening, and then the next morning before every show, we reconvene again and sit down and put it finally together. And then we're on the air. So, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, but we love doing it, and we couldn't do it without you. That's the important thing, because Free Speech TV, no corporate money, no government money. It is all viewer contributions. We work only for you and depend on you and ask you to help us once again as generously as you can. And there's a little incentive to do so. You can go to freespeech.org, make your contribution, freespeech.org. If you can give us $120, that's $10 a month. We will send you a mug, a Bill Press mug, and a pound of coffee from Peregrine Coffee, our favorite coffee shop downstairs in this building, for $240 or $20 a month. From Cowgirl Creamery, the best cheese in the world, believe me, made in California, close to our home in California. A special package from Cowgirl Creamery. For $360 or $30 a month, you'll get the Cowgirl Creamery selection and a Bill Press mug as well. And a very special treat for those who are able to do so and willing to pledge $1,000 of Free Speech TV. You make your way to Washington anytime with a guest. I will take you and your guest out to dinner, some fabulous restaurant in Washington, and invite you in to watch the show the next morning. So I know you're part of the free speech community, or else you wouldn't be watching this morning. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your help in the past. And now please ask you to dig in again. You know how important it is. I know how much you depend on the independent expression of progressive opinion you only get on Free Speech TV. Now's the time to help again, and thank you.
on your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
It is The Bill Press Show. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press today, Monday, March 10th. Bill will be back a little bit later on this week. If you want to watch the show, make sure you're following us on Twitter at BP Show. We have a link right there. You can watch us on YouTube around the world. Seriously. We've got viewers in like Kazakhstan, where else? Japan, England. They're all over the place.
You name it.
Seriously, we're worldwide. 48 minutes past the hour. Sabrina Siddiqui from the Huffington Post is in studio. Make sure you follow her on Twitter at Sabrina Siddiqui. That's 2 D's, 1 Q.
Yes.
Follow her on Twitter and online at HuffingtonPost.com if you want to read her good work. You know, when Bill is here, one of the things he talks about a lot is the focus on 2016. Will Hillary get in? Will Martin O'Malley run? Is Christie going to run? And Bill always makes the point that like we should slow down a little bit because there are some big races in 2014, not on the national level necessarily, but like local races and for governorships and Senate races that are a big deal. What are some of the ones we should be paying attention to?
Well, I think the governorship is the most interesting point because people do still talk a lot more about Congress in a midterm year, House and the Senate, but they don't pay attention to the fact that, while Republicans have, as I said earlier, in a good standing for perhaps the Senate and, of course, for the House, they're at a disadvantage when it comes to governorships across the country. They do control the majority of governors' mansions, but then this year Democrats can pick up some key seats. One of those is in Maine. They're looking at Paula Page. They're looking at Rick Scott in Florida. There's Snyder in Michigan, and I think Governor Corbett in Pennsylvania, too. These are people who are widely considered as vulnerable and really could make for interesting races. Not just that, but, these are also states that Obama won, of course, in 2012. Mm-hmm. So for all the talk about the Senate level, you have these vulnerable red state Democrats, of course, who are battling to hold on to their seats. And Obama, of course, would have lost their states. These are, deeply conservative states. They're stuck defending Obamacare. It's a tough task. When it comes to governors, it's the opposite. It's states that are increasingly liberal-leaning or already Democratic, and having to explain in some cases, such as Rick Scott, why they failed to expand Medicaid. When
in a state like Florida.
And then he had actually embraced the expansion belatedly, and then when the GOP-controlled legislature voted it down, ever since then, he really hasn't said anything. He hasn't tried to push the issue. So Democrats, of course, picking up on that and saying if he really wanted to expand it, he would make it happen. He would fight for it.
And the Democrat there being Charlie Crist in Florida, right. Which is like just an amazing story, I think, that he's back in the spotlight.
A Democrat, yep.
Yeah, and the Democrat in Maine is Michael Michaud, a guy who's been here in studio, and a really, really interesting guy. At CPAC, there was an interesting moment where Mitch McConnell came out on stage holding a rifle above his head. Mitch McConnell. Oh, and at one of the parties I was at a Freedom Works party.
Of course you were.
Yeah, because, as I do, went to a Freedom Works party, and Matt Bevins was there, the guy running against Mitch McConnell, the Tea Party candidate. And what's your take on Mitch McConnell and his chances in Kentucky?
Look, he is overall safe with the Tea Party challenge, certainly. Matt Bevins just did not, I think, pose the sort of serious threat that he could have in a state like Kentucky where Mitch McConnell is deeply unpopular. But, of course, it distracted Mitch McConnell from being able to focus on the general race time and again when he would have rather sort of not had to worry about a Tea Party challenge, not have to be so concerned overtly about what votes he would cast, how they might impact him. I think with Allison Lundergan Grimes, she's a good candidate. She probably is the best shot for Democrats to defeat Mitch McConnell. Will she do it? That's of course a little tougher to say. And most people are still hedging their sort of bets that Mitch McConnell holds on. But it's not going to be easy. This is far from, I think, what he would have wanted it to be in terms of something that is a difficult challenge. He really is unpopular, and he's trying to make the anti-Obamacare case in a state that has proven to be one of the biggest success stories for the Affordable Care Act. So, and also he's running against a Democrat who was not in Congress to vote for it.
Right.
So how much can you really push that argument?
Yeah, good stuff. All right, Sabrina Siddiqui from the Huffington Post. We're out of time, but thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Go do something and find where that lost hour went, I guess. I mean, we're like constantly playing catch up here.
A nap? No, I wish, if only. More work.
Follow her on Twitter at Sabrina Siddiqui, 2 Ds, 1 Q, and online at HuffingtonPost.com. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me again.
All right, we'll talk to you later. My name is Peter Ogburn, in for Bill Press. Quick break. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, friends, just a little break here and time out to tell you about something very, very important. It's that time again when we turn to you and ask for your help because we wouldn't be here without you. You know, it's so funny. Everywhere I go, people always say, man, you got 3 hours to fill every morning. How do you do it? How do you keep up with all of it? You know, well, let me tell you, we work hard at it. I mean, we start at the end of every show. The first thing we do, we just sit right down and start planning the next day's show and get a rough outline kind of where we want to go and what guests we might want to have and what we think the big issues are going to be. And then we go out and all day long, you know, we're watching the news, reading the news, looking at the websites, following everything. I'm down at the White House every day at the briefings and keeping on top of things down there. And then we, meantime, Peter and Elisa particularly are on the phone, booking our guests for the next day. We reconvene in a conference call at 5 o'clock every afternoon and find out what guests we've got and where we think we're going to go the next day in terms of issues and things we want to talk about. We're also watching that evening, and then the next morning before every show, we reconvene again and sit down and put it finally together. And then we're on the air. So, you know, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, but we love doing it, and we couldn't do it without you. That's the important thing, because Free Speech TV, no corporate money, no government money. It is all viewer contributions. We work only for you and depend on you and ask you to help us once again as generously as you can. And there's a little incentive to do so. You can go to freespeech.org, make your contribution, freespeech.org. If you can give us $120, that's $10 a month. We will send you a mug, a Bill Press mug, and a pound of coffee from Peregrine Coffee, our favorite coffee shop downstairs in this building, for $240 or $20 a month. From Cowgirl Creamery, the best cheese in the world, believe me, made in California, close to our home in California. A special package from Cowgirl Creamery for $360 or $30 a month. You'll get the Cowgirl Creamery selection and a Bill Press mug as well. And a very special treat for those who are able to do so and willing to pledge $1,000 of Free Speech TV. You make your way to Washington anytime with a guest. I will take you and your guest out to dinner, some fabulous restaurant in Washington, and invite you in to watch the show the next morning. So I know you're part of the free speech community, or else you wouldn't be watching this morning. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your help in the past. And now please ask you to dig in again. You know how important it is. I know how much you depend on the independent expression of progressive opinion you only get on Free Speech TV. Now's the time to help again, and thank you.
Talker TV. This is the Bill Press Show.
It is the Bill Press Show. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press today on this Monday, March 10th. Big hour coming up next. If you want to watch it, follow us on Twitter at BP Show. We've got the link there. You know exactly where to go. We're going to be talking to Travis Waldron from Think Progress about some sports stories, and Asawin Suebsaeng about the big True Detective finale last night. Meanwhile, today, the president has several things on his agenda. We start out with the presidential daily briefing he's going to get at about 10 o'clock. At 11:15, the president participates in an ambassador credentialing ceremony. He's going to award some ambassadorships to a couple of people: Tunisia, India, Pakistan, Belgium, and the state of Qatar. And then at 5 o'clock, he hosts 2012-2013 NCAA Division I men's and women's champions, and that covers like a whole smattering of sports. He's got the West Virginia University rifle team on here. He's got the women's hockey team from the Golden Gophers of Minnesota are going to be here. So he's just like, this isn't like the basketball or football. These are some of the forgotten sports. I like it.
Hockey's not forgotten.
Women's hockey? Yeah, it's going to never forgotten the sport. Sorry. Peter Ogren in for Bill Press. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Today might be the day I drop out of school.
broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
It is The Bill Press Show, Monday, March 10th. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill as we enter the final hour of the program. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you didn't get confused by the time change. As a morning person, as a person who has to rise early during the week, I hate this time of year because it totally screws us up. Travis Waldron from Think Progress, sports reporter, is in studio with us. Good morning, Travis.
Good morning. How are you?
Good, man. Thanks for coming in. You can follow Travis on Twitter at Travis_Waldron. I highly suggest you follow him there. You can follow his work at thinkprogress.org. We'll go around and say hello to the team. Running the board today is Elisa Murphy. Happy Monday, Elisa.
Good morning. Happy Monday.
Have a good weekend.
Yeah, it was nice. I went to the in-laws up in Pennsylvania.
Oh, whoa. All right. How was that?
Nothing like some Dutch country kitchen, if you know what I mean.
I'm not sure I do know what you mean. You have to tell us about that a little bit. I don't know.
Peter's face on that was amazing.
I don't know how you play that. Like, hey, honey, I feel like a little Dutch country kitchen, wink, wink, if you know what I mean. I'm just going to let everybody interpret that however the hell they want to interpret it. Yeah, so if you call 866-55-PRESS, you'll talk to Alicia Cruz. Screening your phone calls, I suggest you give us a call. We have a lot to talk about, and if you're watching us on the video stream, you are doing so because of the great work of Cyprian Bolding, running the video operations this morning. So, Travis, I have to ask you this question, totally unrelated to sports or anything else. So, I grew up in the South. I know you grew up in the South. Santa Rosa County in Florida is now getting rid of paddling, corporal punishment. Did you ever have an experience with corporal punishment?
Not at school. Never had to.
Yeah, I had one at school. I had one time at school in South Carolina. I told this story earlier, but some friends and we lit some firecrackers on the bus, and the plan was I was going to hold the firecracker, and he was going to light it, and I was going to throw it out the window. And so you know how fast those fuses are.
Right.
So he lit it, and it just blew up right there in my hand. And it didn't hurt or anything like that, but we set off firecrackers on the school bus. So we turned the bus around. Takes me right in. And our principal was probably about 5'1", and he was just like, you guys, I don't want to suspend you. Because I was a pretty good student.
Right.
I don't want to suspend you. I don't think that'd do you any good. So I think you boys both need a paddling.
I don't think we had paddling at school, but
really?
Again, I don't think it would have mattered.
Really?
I can only remember one time of getting actually whipped by my dad, and that was enough.
Yeah.
I was like,
yeah.
I don't need, I'm good.
Right.
Now, when you tell me no,
I won't do it again.
Cool, man.
Yeah.
I got you. I won't go back in the street after my basketball or. I was also I had a really guilty conscience when I was a kid.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, if I broke the rules, I would just go tell my parents about it.
Come on.
I would just be I did it.
Well, see, how can you do? You can't meet out.
And then they were like, well, now we have to punish you, but your punishment's less because you told us.
That's the thing. That's what I tell my kids now. If you lie about it, the punishment is going to be so much worse. That's the thing. But. So my parents gave the principal permission to do the paddling, and I was I've always been bigger than the other kids, right? So I wasn't that concerned because I was 6th or 7th grade. I had a good couple of inches on the principal, so I wasn't freaking out. And he says, "Okay, hang on just a second." So he sends in the assistant principal, who was the offensive line coach on the football team.
Oh man,
and was a big dude. He was a scary dude, and that got me.
So my punishment in high school from playing baseball was the baseball field where I went to school had this big hill next to it because it was below the basketball gym, and there was a hill going up to the basketball gym. So if you got in trouble for anything at school, they basically all the guys who played ball, they were just like, "Go talk to your coach."
Oof.
And that you hit that hill,
yeah,
and. He'd make us run hills if we forgot something for practice, or if we left something behind in the dugout, or just any form of discipline. It was that hill.
The hill. Go for the hill.
I still have nightmares about it.
Yeah. That was my basketball coach. He'd make us do the suicides.
Suicides, yeah.
Back and forth all day long. But anyway, look, it's 2014.
I didn't even know they still had corporal punishment.
They
in
do.
schools.
In fact, in a lot of shock of shocks, they're all in southern states. Florida, Alabama.
Right.
Right. Like Georgia still has it. South Carolina still does it. It's on its way out. Like it's like county by county, they're phasing it out, or school district by school district, they're getting rid of it. But like Florida they're still whooping kids.
Still hanging on.
Yeah. And like when I got whipped, it looked like a cricket bat.
Yeah.
But he had holes
in it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. To cut down on the wind resistance.
Yeah, my dad used to tell me about those. So they didn't.
I got one. I actually had it. Three hard whips, man, from the offensive line coach. Yeah. I did the trick.
Maybe I'm a sissy, but like, if I was a parent, I don't think I'd be cool with that.
My parents,
like, I'll handle how to discipline my children that way. And I mean, granted, I'm not a parent, so I don't know this dynamic. But.
I was shocked. Like, I don't think I would let that happen. In fact, I know I wouldn't let that happen. Like, as the parent of two kids, I know I wouldn't let that happen. But I don't know what my parents' thought process was. In fact, we don't talk about it ever.
Still too many poor memories.
I was so mad. Oh, I was mad that they did that. Judas, both of them, they just threw me under the bus, left me hanging.
I can see how scarred you are.
Oh, I was so mad. I'm still mad about it. It's true. All right. Well, look, yesterday I had one of those days where I was still sort of like conked out from the whole time change. So I just watched a ton of basketball. The Bulls Heat game was so good. This Joakim Noah.
Yeah.
I love this guy.
He's awesome.
He's a total freak.
He's a great player.
Yeah.
He's been that way since he was at Florida, won 2 national titles down at Florida, and earned the wrath of everyone in the SEC. And
yes.
Then he comes to the NBA, and I think he's earned the wrath of every opposing fan in the NBA. But if he's on your team, you got to love him.
He's a lightning rod.
Yeah.
I mean, he hustles.
Well, and he's very emotional, and he plays hard, and he's not the prettiest guy in the world, and he
I like that he actually
just kind
has
of
a bun.
goes out and like yells at people and does his whole. He's very demonstrative, but he's fun to watch, and he's kind of Joakim Noah is kind of one of those guys that when people talk about how the NBA isn't fun to watch and how no one cares, you can point to a guy like Joakim Noah and tell them like you're wrong.
Yeah. I always thought he was a little goofy, but like after watching that game yesterday, I was just kind of like, yeah, I'm in. I'm trying to find the actual quote from LeBron James, because he said yesterday essentially something like, there are no rivalries in professional basketball, which I think is total BS. I think that the Bulls-Heat rivalry is a really good one.
I guess it depends on how you look at it. I guess sometimes they change a little bit more quickly than they do in some other sports. But, like, I mean, you can go back at the early 2000s, the Lakers Kings, and the Heat Bulls I think there's a little hatred in that Heat Bulls rivalry. And if Derrick Rose were healthy and, the Bulls were at their peak, then it'd be even better. I think right now that the Heat and the Pacers have a little bit of...
Yes, absolutely.
Even if it's not necessarily... I think there's definitely some on the court there, because I remember how much, talk there was between the teams during the Eastern Conference Finals last year. But now this year, it's been fascinating to watch the roster moves that each team has made.
Yeah.
Because they're basically only, like, responding to each other, because they almost know that they're the only two teams that have a chance to go to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Exactly.
There's no one else there.
Exactly.
You could cancel the other 2 rounds of the Eastern Conference playoffs and no one would notice.
Exactly.
I don't know. I love LeBron.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to disagree with him on that one, though. There's some good rivalries in the NBA.
I agree. I think it's great. It's like you said, I think there is more than a little hatred between those two teams. I think Noah hates the Heat.
Yeah, well, and I mean, Derrick Rose, as mild-mannered as he is, kind of soft-spoken guy, would talk about how much he wanted to beat him. And I think there's a lot of, like, player-driven rivalries in the NBA, too. Like, I think, Kevin Durant doesn't want to be number 2 to LeBron. Right. And the outgrowth of that is, like, the Thunder don't want to be number 2 to the Heat.
Right.
And they don't get to play as much because they're in opposite conferences. But I think if they get there, if they meet in the finals, it could develop into for the second time in 3 years, it could develop into another great rivalry.
Oh, but there are no rivalries.
There are no rivalries. Yeah, the Lakers and the Celtics there was never a rivalry there.
No, not at all. Not at all. In the middle of all this NBA action, yesterday afternoon, a Minnesota State congressman by the name of Pat Garofalo tweeted out this tweet. I'm reading it verbatim. Quote, "Let's be honest. 70% of teams in the NBA could fold tomorrow and nobody would notice a difference, with the possible exception of increase in street crime." End quote.
Beautiful. Well done, sir.
Yeah, I mean, just
great tweet.
Like, first of all, I'm just, for the most part, just anti-trolling tweeting. You know what I mean? Like, just putting stuff out there just for the sake of pissing people off. But it was even...
When it doubles as also possibly, like, very close to outright racist, and with definitely racial undertones.
Certainly racial undertones.
Like, come on, man. I mean, like, this is the thing people have been saying about the NBA for 15 years now. I mean, like, since the Allen Iverson days, when, it was thug culture and, no one wanted to watch the NBA because there were too many tattoos and do-rags. And it's like, come on. Like, that's certainly true for some people, but also, like, it's just nonsense. I didn't get a chance to look at the stats, but I would guess that in the NFL, for instance, the crime rate among players is actually a little bit lower than it is for males in that general population.
That's interesting.
It's now there's still problems. I'm not trying to discount that.
Sure.
There's always a question of, do they get the same level of punishment, or do they get off a little easier because of their status?
Right.
That it gets a lot more complicated. I would guess that it's probably fairly similar in the NBA.
Yeah.
But look, it's you get these people who are frankly very uncomfortable with the fact that there's a league that is made up of 70% African Americans who are making good money.
Yeah.
And it's a thought that leads to some other problems, like, the David Stern dress code, and are there racial links there? A lot of people would argue yes. A lot of people say no. It's hard to tell. But, like, this idea that the NBA is just like this street game, played by a bunch of thugs, it's nonsense. If you watch the NBA, you don't see that.
Right. And it's an easy argument to make in terms of the spoiled professional athlete. I think it's tired and hackneyed argument to make, but it's an easy one to make. But then when you make that leap from these spoiled athletes have no respect for the law, whatever, to the NBA and 70% of their players are going to go out and commit street crimes, Don't get it twisted. Like, made sure he put in street crimes. It's pretty clear what he's trying to say.
Right. And, it's just, there's so many problems there.
Yeah.
And, like, we would need, like, 10 radio shows to dissect every problem with just immediately associating a black basketball player with a rise in street crime. Should he become unemployed in the NBA?
Yeah,
like,
right.
It's ridiculous. And it's
866-55-PRESS is our phone number, 866-557-7377. I want to ask you, as soon as we get back from the break, whether or not you think the NBA is going to have anything to say about this, whether or not this is going to gain some steam and lead them to address it somehow. Travis Waldron is our guest, sports reporter for Think Progress. Follow him on Twitter at Travis_Waldron or online at thinkprogress.org. My name is Peter Ogburn. Tweeting at Peter Ogburn on Twitter. We're filling in for Bill Press today. Take a quick break. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show. On TV and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
It is the Bill Press Show. 25 minutes past the hour. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill today. Travis Waldron from Think Progress Sports is with us. Travis, just to follow up on what we were talking about with that tweet with the racial undertones, do you think the NBA is going to have anything to say about it?
I doubt it. I mean, it's just one state rep from Minnesota. And granted, he's in the backyard of an NBA team, but,
yeah,
you know, like, you can't address every stupid thing that people say, and, you know, hopefully it will. I think the reaction on Twitter was mostly anti.
Yeah.
So I think like that's a good thing. That's
he's in the backyard of an NBA team, you know, with those thuggish players like Kevin Love and Ricky Rubio. It'll be interesting to see if any, I think, individual players say anything about it on Twitter.
Yeah.
That might be the way that this comes out.
Right.
So I just have to just to follow up, right? Because it was about this time on Friday we had your colleague Igor Volsky in studio. He was our
That's
celebrity.
Your first mistake, right?
Yeah, I know. We have him in every Tuesday, but we made him come in on Friday because we had this story about how Chipotle might stop selling guac because of the crop change and the fact that avocados are getting so difficult to get their hands on and so expensive. So Igor comes in. I made guac. Bill's wife made guac, and Elisa made guac. And we put it all up to a vote, and Carol Press won. Congratulations to Carol Press. She makes a better guac than me.
That sounded really sincere. That
Igor voted for Carol's guac, and then after the fact, Carol's note says, "Oh, by the way, I used lemons instead of limes, and I forgot to put cilantro in it." That's what Igor picked. Igor picked that as his favorite guac. Something that was not guacamole, he picked as the better guacamole. Right? I guess maybe I should.
Is just like Is this just the half hour of the show where you're just confessing all of your like?
I just have to get this out.
like everything that just has to come out.
Yeah.
Like,
there's a lot of unchecked anger here. Okay?
As a sixth grader, my guacamole got beat by something with lemons in it.
Yes.
We have a therapist.
I'm airing grievances, man.
That's like Dr.
Bill leaves and it's just pouring out, man. All right. Somebody hold me. I mean, it's just too much to handle. Igor State, yes, it was not guacamole, but he writes me in all caps, and it still beat yours.
Ouch.
Oh. Maybe I should have catered my guac to Igor's taste. I should have put beets in it or something like that, or whatever they eat in Russia. Borscht. I can make borscht and call it guacamole. He'd pick it. Oh, best guacamole. Yeah, it's got lemons in it. I'm curious because Chipotle kind of walked back their comments a little bit. Look, man, that's a real problem, though. If they, crop change is one of the things that people talked about. It's easy to joke and say, climate change, whatever, it's so cold out. But, that could be a real issue. So we're following that, and I appreciate Think Progress for staying on top of it. Travis Waldron, Think Progress Sports, thank you so much for coming in, buddy. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, as always.
Definitely follow Travis on Twitter, Travis_Waldron, and visit thinkprogress.org. We do it every day. When we come back, we're going to talk about True Detective, the big finale last night. Stay tuned.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey friends, do you realize that heart disease kills more Americans every year than all forms of cancer combined? So when you donate to the American Heart Association, you're contributing to life-saving research with every dollar. You can make your donation today through the Pop Money personal payment service. All you do is download the app or go online to popmoney.com. Sign up to send your donation to jessica.gramillion@heart.org. Jessica.gramillion@heart.org. Here's the best part. The 95-cent fee is assessed to you, the sender, regardless of how much money you contribute. That means that 100% of your donation goes to support the ongoing research to help save lives across America. No fees are paid by the American Heart Association, getting more bang for your buck. And of course, Terms and conditions apply.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
It is The Bill Press Show. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press today. Bill will be back later, but that doesn't mean that you can't connect with the show. You can do so on Twitter at BP Show, or follow me at Peter Ogburn. You can also visit our website, BillPressShow.com. A lot of good content there. Follow us on Facebook or like us on Facebook, Facebook.com/Bill Press Show. And if you want to keep up with the show, there are several ways to watch and listen to the show. We are streaming audio on the iHeartRadio app or on the TuneIn app using the Progressive Voices channel. Just download TuneIn or iHeartRadio and look for the Bill Press Show and look for the Progressive Voices channel. You can find us there. And like I said, we are streaming live video. If you want to find that link, it is right now on Twitter at BP Show, So check that out. Story we were talking about earlier today is a minor fight sort of brewing in New York City. Mayor Bill de Blasio said when he was running for mayor, he was going to get rid of the horse-drawn carriages in Central Park. He continued that theme over the weekend. He visited or talked about how he wanted to visit some of the stables and visit some of the drivers of the horse-drawn carriages.
I'm firm about the fact that we have to make this move. That being said, the reason I want to visit the stables, and we'll do it when the schedule allows, is because we want to work with the folks who operate those horse carriages and get them new opportunities in other types of related work.
So he cites part of the reason is animal cruelty. You know, it's not something that these horses should be doing. He has found his opposition in Liam Neeson, the actor, Hollywood actor, who has now become like an action hero. Guy's what? Like, got to be close to 60.
Yeah.
And he's now an action star. So de Blasio and Liam Neeson are squaring off over this issue on the horse-drawn carriages. Here's Liam Neeson where he talks about how well taken care of the horses are.
These horses are well cared for. The mayor wants to replace them with electric cars. That's exactly what New York needs, more cars.
He sounds like a politician.
Yeah, he does. He has a perfect voice for that.
Politician mode there. Like, that's just what we need, more cars. Am I right, ladies and gentlemen? Like, he's really hamming it up there. But then he goes on and talks about how long this industry has been around.
This is an industry that's been here since before Abraham Lincoln's first inauguration, 1858.
Are we really going to make the argument that just because it's been around for a long time, we should keep it?
It's not the best argument, I will admit that.
There are a lot of things that went by the wayside because they were outdated and you know, not worth doing anymore. So I'm actually Team de Blasio on this one.
I support the horse-drawn carriages. I hope they stay.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Now, do you not think... Like, I come from, like, I'm not a crazy animal rights person. Like, I believe that animals, like, should be treated humanely and all that. But I'm not some person that, you know, is you know, I mean, I'm certainly not a vegetarian.
Yeah.
Do you not think that it's, like, a little inhumane?
I guess so, but I guess I just haven't really seen the reports, or there haven't been these reports coming out saying how inhumane the treatment really is. And there's a lot of equestrian areas right outside of New York where you imagine they must be taken care of.
That's what but you know, if there are equestrian areas, then the horses could run around. We're doing other things between hauling around tourist fat asses all over Central Park.
It's a job.
I mean, I guess. I mean, horse employment's a big deal in New York City. You know, de Blasio's New York.
Well, right? It's funny how
he's even unemploying horses now.
They said they're going to look for another opportunity for the horses, and I wonder what they're laying out as those other opportunities.
Well, what other opportunities could a horse have?
Yeah, exactly. That's what's interesting. He's saying, like, oh, we're going to find other areas for these horses.
Like what?
Yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting.
To the glue factory.
Yeah,
that's where those horses are going.
That's where My Little Pony went.
The glue factory. And those horses won't be invited. If you know. All right. Well, we'll see what happens with that. We brought in, from Mother Jones, Asawin Suebsaeng, Swin. You can follow him on Twitter, @Swin24. A must-follow on Twitter, @Swin24. Thanks for coming in, buddy. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me.
You've been writing a lot and tweeting a lot about True Detective, which had the big series or season finale last night. For those that aren't aware of True Detective, I just want to put out there will probably be some spoilers in this conversation we're about to have. If not from you, then from me.
Throw the radio out the window if you haven't caught up.
Exactly. Set it on fire. Sacrifice it to the radio gods. If you're not familiar with True Detective, first of all, explain the premise of how this show is being done. I don't think I've ever heard a show being done in quite this manner.
Well, the way the previews made it seem months ago was that you were getting a serial killer anthology series. This is a lot like American Horror Story, in which each season of this show is supposed to be a unique 8-episode story from the last one. But the structure most of the show is held in is that it's told in flashbacks from 2012 to the mid-90s, where two detectives played by Woody Harrelson and Matthew McConaughey are investigating the murder of Dora Lang. Mm-hmm. And things go from there, and it's, as I'm sure people have heard, it's much more than just a serial killer show or a cop show. There's a lot of philosophy and a lot of great direction and writing. Some of the best dialogue in recent years on TV. And that's just the tip of the iceberg of why this show's so good.
Right. I mean, I think we've seen Matthew McConaughey do something, and not to take away from Woody Harrelson or anybody else, but I think Matthew McConaughey, for me anyway, particularly, I've never seen anybody do anything quite like what Matthew McConaughey did with his role on that TV show.
Well, the thing about Matthew McConaughey is if you just think 2 years ago, what would have been the first thing that jumped to your mind? Failure to Launch, How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. Exactly. In the past, I'd say since 2011 with his role in the thriller The Lincoln Lawyer with Ryan Phillippe, he's been making a clear push to be taken as a quote-unquote serious actor. And it doesn't hurt that he has always been a very good actor. I thought his performance in 2012's Killer Joe, the William Friedkin film, like the X-rated film, was phenomenal, and that was Oscar-worthy, but it was far too scuzzy a movie for the Academy to take into consideration. And with The Wolf of Wall Street, True Detective, The Dallas Buyers Club, he really is a force to reckon with. And he has an Oscar now, so.
Yeah.
But that only means so much these days.
I think I saw your tweet. He's going for the full EGOT now.
Right, exactly.
Like, I mean, he's got to get a TV nomination or an Emmy for this, at least. So with the finale, there's a lot of back and forth over whether or not it was good or great, or whether or not it tied up all the loose ends that we wanted to see tied up. I thought it was very, very good finale.
I thought it was fantastic.
Okay, all right. So the criticism that's out there is,
and there are many, but this is the internet. So.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's put like one of the criticisms. This is where we might get into some spoiler territory. One of the criticisms that I've seen is that there was this whole big conspiracy and cover up, and that was never really resolved for us. We just sort of found the killer.
And the conspiracy, as we know, again, spoiler alert, goes to the U.S. Senate, like one senator, really. Yeah. But to me, the reason I found the conclusion satisfying was because I thought the whole time it would be weird if you saw Marty and Rust take down a U.S. senator. Like, I mean, there's so much to the show in terms of philosophy and even politics that are only slightly revealed or hinted at. It would seem weird if the show turned so political. That was never what it was about. Or not even political, but dabbling in politics as a setting. Right. It was about these two men, and it was about them.
The way you put that, I think, like there's an interesting... If you haven't seen the show, right, like it's about brutal, weird murders, but you don't ever actually see any of those things. That was the sort of psychological thing to me, is that
it's the frame.
Yeah, before it got gory or visually upsetting, right? Because I think there was plenty that was upsetting about that show.
Oh, absolutely.
But visually upsetting, they would turn the camera away or pull back and really focused on the characters and their reaction to the scene and that type of stuff. So, yeah, I think if they had just gone in that typical direction, they would have lost me.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing is about how this darkness, whether in the jobs or in their own lives, has affected these men. It's the best thing about this series to me was that it's a serial killer show that's not at all a serial killer show.
Right.
Like, that show on Fox, The Following, that's about the serial killing and the cult, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
This might as well be two men working a hardware store, going through some tough times and speaking very eloquently to one another, or at least one speaking to the other one while the other rolls his eyes. But it just so happens that these two men are investigating a string of murders over the course of 2 decades.
We're going to take a quick break, because we're right up against a break. But we have more to talk about True Detective and some other things that are cooking out there. Suebsaeng from Mother Jones is in studio with us. Make sure you're following him on Twitter at Swin24. Quick break. We'll be right back talking True Detective.
This is the Bill Press Show. This is the Bill Press Show.
It is the Bill Press Show. Peter Ogburn in for Bill today, Monday, March 10th. Man, it's already March 10th, huh? I wasn't even paying attention. March is going to be gone before you know it.
Blink, it'll be 2017.
Yeah, exactly.
And we won't have to worry about the election.
Exactly. Suebsaeng is in studio with us. Follow him on Twitter at Swin24. We're talking about the big True Detective season finale last night. Let's talk about that final scene. And again, I know, spoiler alert, we have to put that out there, but that final scene, I think, was just so perfect, and the way they tied the bow on the story, even though there were plenty of things that they didn't resolve in the finale, in a lot of viewers' eyes.
Which people have been warning us for months now, or weeks, that they weren't gonna.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I mean,
so what's your takeaway from that final scene and that final sort of monologue from Matthew McConaughey, who delivered so many great monologues on the show?
Well, it was a clear break from the sort of poetic cynicism we've seen coming out of the character for the previous 7 episodes, or even almost everything until the very end of the
year. Right.
Where I believe he quotes from scripture, or at least paraphrases it, but the show doesn't exactly acknowledge that, as if to not alienate its atheist fan base that may not know better. And he ends by saying something to the effect of, it's the age-old story of light versus dark, and you know what? It looks like light is winning. And then the show ends.
And then that's it.
And it reminded me a bit of Seven, which is a movie, the David Fincher movie, that the show was sort of, kind of, maybe at first at the beginning compared to, just because serial killers figure into both of them. But really it had nothing. The two are nothing alike, except for the very last line, because the last line in Seven is Morgan Freeman saying, Ernest Hemingway once wrote, "The world is a fine place, and it's worth fighting for." I agree with the second part.
Yeah.
So that's the one time it reminded me of Seven.
So what do you think happens next, or what do you gather is going to happen next? Because as you said, it's one season, and then it's a totally new cast, totally new story. Assuming, there's not an official second season yet, right? But it'll happen.
It's been renewed, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, okay.
I think it has. It's coming back.
It'll be coming back, without a doubt. So it'll be a totally different story, totally different cast, but same director, same writer. There was a lot of criticism about the lack of strong female characters in this show. Do you think that's going to weigh in at all on this next season?
The writer, Nick Pizzolatto, tweeted. He's only tweeted like 12 times in his life, but he tweeted in response to someone raising this on Twitter, and he quickly deleted it. And the tweet seemed to imply that next season there'll be a stronger female presence. Whether or not there'll be one female lead or 2 female leads, we don't know. But really, nobody has any idea at this point, including a couple of people I've talked to who are on the show.
That's cool.
But
I kind of love it. There are so few genuinely surprising things left, that I love that type of, the way that they've done it, the way that they're just kind of like, hey, we're doing one season, and then poof.
If you had your choice, where would the next season take place? This one was Louisiana.
It's a good question.
Toledo, Ohio.
Yeah, yes, exactly. I love this. I love the Southern aesthetic of this season. I mean, I love the sort of removed from time, and the fact that, look, there weren't a lot of female leads in this series and strong female characters, but there weren't a whole lot of strong females that would be given a job like the ones that these characters had in that time and in that area. So, I mean, I think they were realistic to that. So I would love to see a more female-heavy cast, and I would love to see something in maybe a bigger city and change the whole dynamic up,
Absolutely.
Let's go to Mick in Denver, Colorado. Mick called 866-55-PRESS. Mick, thanks for calling.
Hey, good morning, gentlemen. I'll be real quick here. My son worked on the production crew of True Detective, so I had a little bit of an inside view, although he couldn't share very much when they were filming. But two quick gems here. There was some computer graphics in that last scene there when they're going up the inlets and down the river and the bayou there because of the oil slicks. They had to clean up a little bit because of just the damage from the BP oil spill.
Oh, that's interesting.
They did some clean physical and also some computer graphics there to clean up the the area. And the other thing was, in general terms, quite a few number of those folks that were acting, kind of secondary cast, were regular local folks that had done some acting or just were pretty good at reading lines. And they brought that real flavor of Louisiana. By the way, I'm an LSU guy, Peter, so I know how it is. I'm always looking every year for that game, either in Tuscaloosa or down in Death Valley.
Roll Tide, Mick. Roll Tide, buddy.
Yeah, baby. Well, go Tigers, man. It's a wonderful. My son has all of these scripts, and I'm really looking forward to reading the scripts when he comes back from L.A., he said, I'll share them with you so you can see it. And, yeah, I hope they do something wonderful, man, because what Tim is just amazing. He's the new Errol Flynn as far as I'm concerned. So that's all I want to say.
Thanks, Mick. I appreciate it, bud. I appreciate it. It's interesting to get that insight and to have somebody that works on the show. When might we see the next season of True Detective? It'll be like
a year
or so.
I'm betting about a year. I mean, that's the clip that these cable series work at. That's what American Horror Story does. It's almost like clockwork.
Right.
And if Mick wants to share those scripts with me after he sees them with his son, I'd love that. I mean, even if they're old from the last season, it'd be nice to see how it's written.
Totally.
Because so much of it, a lot of it is also just in the head of the director, Fukunaga.
Yeah.
Who does an amazing job visually.
Amazing.
And otherwise. So it'd be nice to see how he takes like a line of X happens and turns it into like this sort of dark, beautiful Gothic painting we've seen.
All right, Mick, if you're still listening, you can find him on Twitter at Swin24. Make sure you find him there. Give him those scripts. Swin Suebsaeng, nice to finally meet you. Thanks for coming in the studio, man. I appreciate it.
It was great meeting you as well. Thanks so much.
It's the Bill Press Show. Peter Ogburn in for Bill Press. One quick segment. We'll wrap this up right after this.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey friends, do you realize that heart disease kills more Americans every year than all forms of cancer combined? So when you donate to the American Heart Association, you're contributing to life-saving research with every dollar. You can make your donation today through the Pop Money personal payment service. All you do is download the app or go online to popmoney.com. Sign up to send your donation to jessica.gramillion@heart.org. Jessica.gramillion@heart.org. Here's the best part. The 95-cent fee is assessed to you, the sender, regardless of how much money you contribute. That means that 100% of your donation goes to support the ongoing research to help save lives across America. No fees are paid by the American Heart Association, getting more bang for your buck. And of course, terms and conditions apply.
on your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
It is The Bill Press Show. My name is Peter Ogburn. Thank you so very much for tuning in today. I really do appreciate it. One clip we didn't get to play today, but we're going to talk about tomorrow. Over the weekend, Ted Cruz, just to give you an idea of how delusional Ted Cruz is, the guy that came in second at the CPAC straw poll. Tell me if this doesn't sound just clown shoes crazy. He thinks that Obamacare can be repealed and gotten rid of while Obama is in office. He's insane. That's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Keep dreaming. Ted Cruz, we'll talk about that tomorrow. I'll be back with another great group of guests. It's The Bill Press Show. Thanks so much for tuning in.
This is The Bill Press Show.